Wouldn't it be funny if some country you never thought of is the one that ends up nuking everything?
Jamaica?
Yeah, Jamaica! Let's go, dude. Jamaica nukes Washington, D.C.
Hey, man, we're really going to turn Babylon to ashes.
Fuck, we meant to hit Russia. I'm sorry, man.
I'm so high. Oh, I hit America instead of Russia. My bad.
That's a good sketch.
Yeah. Russia's been a batty boy.
Rest in peace.
Didn't she get beat?
Rest in power. Oh, Jesus Christ. You can't just air fuck me on film like that.
Too late.
I withdraw consent retroactively.
Tulum, Mexico.
You ever get someone who unironically says rest in power after you say rest in peace?
No.
That's happened to me a few times.
Really?
Yeah.
Who?
We've had multiple funerals at the catering event company I work for. And this person tragically died or whatever, and I was just rest in peace, and some dude was like, rest in power. And I was like, I hope you're joking right now.
That's hilarious.
You cannot be serious.
I also love the, whenever somebody dies, everyone is like, oh, how tragic.
Yeah.
Why is it always tragic?
Yeah, well that's...
What if it was deserved? What if they were old?
Exactly. It's not always... Tragic is not always the right word.
No, in fact, sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's comedic. How comedic?
Well, you can have comedic tragedy, too.
Oh, yeah, I guess that is the whole... I thought it was kind of like opposites, though. It's like tragedy and comedy. It's like the drama
I almost would
and
think
comedy faces.
the opposite of tragedy would be like serendipity. You know what I mean? Like something, but you can have a not necessarily serendipitous death, but you can have a death that is totally expected.
Isn't serendipitous like like a synchronicity?
Serendipity is good luck, essentially. It's a fancy word for good luck.
Because synchronicity is like, oh, how coincidental that these two things that were similar happened.
Serendipity is like it's coincidental, but also inherently good. It's like a good coincidence, unlike whatever the fuck you just did. It was disgusting.
Tragic, even.
It was like a pterodactyl. Yeah. But yeah, tragedy implies, I think, something that was unexpected.
Yes.
Which a 90-year-old dying can never be a tragedy.
No.
Unless they were, died in they got eaten by termites or something.
Yeah, where it was like, oh, he was just taking a slow walk to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And got swallowed up by an earthquake.
Pit bull killed him.
Yeah.
By playing with him too hard.
It was his best friend.
Yeah.
Tragic.
Pit bull was pretty sad about it.
That would be tragic.
That would be tragic.
But so often it's not.
No, usually it's the 9th round of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Finally didn't do the trick. And it's like, that's what happens.
Bottom of the 9th. It's like, he's dying.
Mario and Rivera
and Luigi.
How do we get? Oh yeah, rest in powers. People, that's a leftist thing for sure. That's one of the. I mean, it's.
I thought it was a Puerto Rican thing.
Total cliche at this point to be like, this is why Trump won, right?
Yeah.
And that's been every obvious hot take from fucking Bill Maher talking head types, but it's like, I mean, obviously it's partially true, right? That part of how the left, part of its political demise was almost like not resting on their laurels. That's not the phrase I'm looking for. It's like when you've won something.
Yeah, I know what you're going for.
It's like there's a phrase I'm missing, but it's almost like it's like dancing on somebody's grave.
He has poor sportsmanship.
Like I feel like that's a lot of what the Democratic Party kind of did to the right in a way.
Yeah,
and also to their own base.
They really demean people. They really make people feel like imbeciles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Hillary Clinton, obviously, with the famous quote referring to Trump voters as the basket of deplorables.
Wow.
Which is one of the worst political phrases I could possibly imagine.
And it's crazy to call. It's just crazy to like treat half of the country like that. It's like you realize
political
50%.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you can say whatever you want behind closed doors.
Sure.
Okay, I'll agree with you that certain large percentages of the population, for any reason, might be retarded, evil, selfish. You know, and it's not just
most people.
Most people,
yeah,
on the right and left,
that's human
like
nature.
Not great people. You know, but yeah, when you're trying to win votes, but I think a lot of what happened is the Democrats, prior to this last election, they won 8 out of the last 9 popular votes. And, you know, I like Obama won by fairly resounding margins, and just the demographic charts, right? Like there's more Latinos in the country than ever, and the Democrats assumed that they were just going to vote blue forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
the Democrats just assumed we wanted them here.
Yeah, and there's and that they, you know, wouldn't vote conservative, or that they themselves wouldn't be against restricting immigration and stuff like that. And then also young people too. Like young people were trending way far left. Like 10 years ago. It was like it seemed almost inevitable that the Republican Party was fucked.
Yeah.
For a while. People were talking about Texas going blue, maybe Florida going blue.
Yeah.
You know, with all the immigrants and with older people dying, and they're all conservative, and younger people more liberal than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of what went wrong is, the Democrats, from that position of perceived superiority, started to get high and mighty.
Yes.
They stopped trying to, one, evolve in any way.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this formula we work that beat John McCain and Mitt Romney, let's make it even better.
Yeah.
You know, let's try to make it even more progressive, even more populist, appeal to even more people. Let's be even better to workers, try to raise the minimum wage, try to give people universal health care, or at least push for those things that poll very popularly across both parties. They were just like, hey, you know what? We have the political power in this country now. We probably will forever. Let's go all in on trans rights.
Yeah.
You know? Let's start calling anybody who votes Republican a racist, fascist bigot.
That was always what struck me as odd in terms of like, and marketing is the wrong word, but it's the general idea of the Black Lives Matter movement. Where it's like, as soon as it became Black Trans Lives Matter, it's like, we're kind of getting away from the point here. We're still trying to emphasize that Black Lives Matter. Because now saying Black Trans Lives Matter, by their argument, it's, okay, yeah, we're saying Black Trans Lives Matter because it's obvious that Black Lives matter.
And it's obvious that trans lives matter.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we have to specify that Black Trans Lives matter.
Right.
Because that was the whole argument between all lives matter and Black Lives Matter.
Which is just esoteric retardation.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a fuck.
And also, it's not largely agreed upon in theory that Black Lives Matter at this point already. It's like, it's true,
well, that's the thing.
But it's like, it's not, the argument is still there to make that a movement.
Yeah, a lot of Democrats, especially younger people, they lost historical perspective.
Yeah.
They lost the fact that, like, hey, women haven't even been allowed to vote for over 150 years. I forget when they got the right to vote. Yeah. So
barely 100 years.
Yeah, like... there's still a shitload of conservatives in this country. There's still racists. There's still sexist. There's still, like, you can't... And again, that's, like... I feel like the Democrats, they went, in some ways, too left on social issues and not left enough on economic issues.
Interesting.
But even more importantly was the tone, right? Like, if you want to go far left on social issues... You know, on ethical grounds, go for it. Black trans lives do matter.
Yes.
Like, trans people should have expand it right, and we should be having nuanced conversations about
Yeah.
like, okay, how do we handle trans people in sports? How do we handle trans bathrooms? And those, I'm not saying we should just punt on those issues,
But it should be a lower priority.
It should be the lowest priority.
Yeah, we still have,
because that's not what's going to win you an election, and if you lose the election, you can't get anything you want.
We also still have, bigger problems than that. It's like, even in social issues, we still have black slavery in the prison system.
Yeah.
It's like we're still imprisoning black people at a much larger rate, predominantly black men, and they're doing essentially free labor.
Yeah, in the inner cities too. And again, that has more to do with economics at this point in time.
Yeah, having a private prison industry and all that.
Yeah, and the fact that a lot of the black people who do end up in these cycles and end up in those cycles because they grow up in horrific ghettos.
Yeah.
Where there's borderline third world living conditions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the solution to that is not to say Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And that's not going to solve the problem at all.
Yeah. But also straying further to that to being we have to discuss trans bathrooms.
Right.
It's how far, that should be so much further down the list than truly abolishing slavery in the prison industrial complex, truly abolishing the military industrial complex. All these major issues.
Truly trying to get rid of pervasive homelessness.
Yes, yeah.
For all races. Just the fact that there are so many literal homeless and starving people in this country.
There shouldn't be starvation.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But all this spawned from the original, it comes from that ethos of people who want to try to rest in power instead of rest in peace.
Yeah.
That's such a fucking libtard concept.
Yeah. You want to look very progressive but not do anything.
How can I say get this really small and irrelevant victory in some type of domain?
Don't die of hunger, by the way.
I won't. To all the homeless people watching this, bananas are cheap and good for you.
Let's not make this racial. I keep getting Whole Foods delivery from Amazon because it's cheaper than my local grocery store in New York, which is insane.
Yeah.
But they keep delivering these they pick up produce that's just spoiled already. It shows up on my doorstep spoiled. So I'm throwing out heads of lettuce and getting refunds for it because Amazon doesn't care about pennies.
Yeah.
But it's also I would like to give it to someone who would eat it. Because it's not so spoiled you can't eat it. It's just so spoiled I'm not going to eat it.
Well, go to your local food shelter, Nick. What the fuck are you doing?
There's a
you
homeless
call
guy.
yourself a philanthropist?
I don't. But there's always a guy. I've never have, nor will I ever. No matter how much money I make, I will never be.
It would be funny if you put that on your Instagram. What is it right now? Take lives, eat ass?
Eat ass, take lives.
Just put philanthropist under.
Dude, my mom texted me about that.
Oh no!
Because she saw that.
Mom.
She was like, "I think that's a little misogynistic." I was like, first of all, it's not.
I eat gay ass all the time, Mom.
Well, it's just by definition, it's not misogynistic.
No, of all the complaints.
Yes, and on top of that, she was like, "I also think it might deter women from finding you funny."
Yeah.
And she's like, "It doesn't feel like it represents your comedy brand." And I'm like, "I don't think you know my comedy brand."
Yeah, Mom, you've never come to one of my shows before.
Yes,
I think this is what you want my comedy brand to be.
Yeah, the thing you don't think my comedy brand is going viral.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But
I'm all about eating ass.
Yes, and taking lives.
Something you've never done.
And probably not.
Or received.
I'd like not to know.
The fifth, yeah.
But she also said the come to my shows thing was come on. But she was basically I don't think women will find this funny.
How do you think she found your Instagram?
She knows my Instagram.
By the way, should we shout out your Instagram?
At my name. If you're watching this on YouTube, you probably know.
His name is Nick Marmor.
That'll be on the YouTube.
We don't know where this is going, when this is going.
It'll be on the X Hamster.
Ceaseless plugs.
Yeah, I'm only putting this on X Hamster and Jizz Hut.
Jizz Hut. pornhoarder.net.
When I was in 8th grade, I slept over at my friend's house, and his parents lived right across the hall, like 2 feet out his door, and his grandma lived like a foot to the left outside his door, and they were both asleep, and we were all going in his room as me and these 2 guys, and he was like, let's look at porn, and he put up jizzhut.com, and it was like, that's his go-to.
Holy shit.
So funny.
I somehow missed Jizz Hut.
I never got that either. I was a big
That's
X-hamster
disgusting.
guy.
I've stumbled on some X-hamster. I mean, that's like a big one. Which
Yeah.
is ridiculous, because can you get a more disgusting name for
Absolutely.
a porn website?
Well, like
It's
Lobster
X-ham-
too.
Whoever came up with that. Yeah, men are absolutely disgusting.
We got to that though from my mom finding my thing. She was like, I don't think women will find it that funny. And I was
Yeah.
like, I perform for women every day, and I know what they
Not
laugh
every
at.
woman is 65 years old.
71.
I don't have no idea. Oh, your mom is
Yeah, not every
71.
not
That's
every
even
woman
worse.
was born in the 50s and has that mentality about
From
explicit
Minnesota.
sexuality.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick's mom, if you ever hear this.
I love you, mommy.
No harm. Just
Just don't watch my comedy.
We're not hiring you as our comedy producer.
Ideally, you wouldn't have made it this far in this podcast.
Right.
Although we're getting very Libby, so.
Well, it's kind of that. So you had a joke today that I was like, oh, it really cut to the core of what we're talking about, the Kamala versus Kamala.
Yes.
Like, I got in an argument with my dad the other day because, like, I was trying to talk to my dad about why I thought Democrats lost the election.
Yeah.
And he was like, and this is a dude who's addicted to MSNBC.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, wow.
It's the only news network where he gets anything from.
Wow.
And MSNBC, I mean, Trump
It's the Fox of the left.
famously calls them MSDNC, which is basically what they are.
That's funny.
And I don't like Trump. I voted for Kamala Harris. I think that's
Same.
how you pronounce it.
It is.
Kamala.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
And it makes sense if you say it in an Indian accent. Kamala.
Right.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Kamala.
If you guys are ever wondering how it's pronounced,
Yeah.
just go down to
Kamala.
your local gas station
Yeah.
or
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. Where else do they? I was dude,
Bodega. Not really.
There's some guy recently.
Go to your
was
local-
Like, why do Indians always own this? And I'm like, you're right. They do. Liquor stores.
Yes.
They got a lot of liquor stores.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me how certain ethnicities just like cop a business model, like
Well,
the
let alone-
Greeks and diners.
Let alone Ubers and taxis and all that.
Yeah, it's word of mouth. You know, you specialize in something. Mexicans and lawn care.
Yes.
Same thing. Like fucking
Any
how many
hard labor.
landscapers I know that
Yeah.
are Mexican.
Yeah, and the idea is you go to Home Depot and pick up a bunch of Mexican day laborers.
Right. And it's
But that's
like,
not even just landscaping, it's roofing and all that shit too.
it's a brutal fucking job, man. Not
Yeah.
all these jobs are created equal.
No.
You know,
I'd talk about
own
it.
a gas station. It's a lot easier.
Well, that's where the intelligence of the Indians comes in.
The mathematical reasoning.
Yeah, there's the mystery of the Orient, and then there's the intelligence of the Indians.
Now, Indians are, I don't even know what you'd call them geographically. In
South
Asia.
Asian. South Asian.
But are they Southeast Asian?
No, just South Asian.
You know this for sure.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Southeast Asian would be like Thai, Laos, Vietnam.
That's what I mean.
Cambodia.
Yeah, because India's not the Middle East.
No.
But they're also, you wouldn't traditionally call them Southeast Asian.
No,
It's really their own thing.
Directly South Asian.
Yeah.
Just like there would be Central Asian for like
Right.
Mongolian or something like
Right.
that.
Every once in a while, you'll get an Indian guy who looks just like a Mexican guy.
Yes, yeah.
They're like not that far away.
No, there's
Feature-wise.
this Indian or Pakistani open micer in New York, and everybody thinks he's black. Because he looks black.
dark skinned.
He's dark skinned.
Yeah.
He's kind of chubbier too, so he just he doesn't look like a scrawny Indian guy.
Yeah.
And it's like as soon as you hear he's not black, you're like, well, Dominican?
Right.
Because that's
Brazilian.
just Dominican's like the go-to ethnically ambiguous look.
Yeah.
But you'd think like Latino.
Right.
And then from there he's like, no, I'm Indian. And it's
Interesting.
Like, wouldn't have
Oh, yeah,
guessed.
they can get pretty dark
Yeah.
sometimes.
No, South Indian.
Right.
They have their own cuisine and everything.
But yeah, I was like, talking politics with my dad.
Yeah.
And MSNBC is a hell of a lot better than Fox News. Fox News is a literal propaganda network. I mean, if you look up their, business model and people who've worked for them and talk about how they run things, I mean, they literally read off teleprompters. They get memos directly from the head of it. Like, they're told what to talk about, what opinions to have.
And it's all opinion-based stuff, too. But it seems like NBC is also largely opinion-based stuff.
Yeah, it's not just cut and dry news. That's what CNN has more of a reputation for that, although they're not total factual news either.
And as time goes on, they seem to go further left.
Yeah, because that's what sells.
Yeah.
Having opinions sells.
Yes.
But MSNBC is more laissez-faire. It's more just like, if you say something too off-brand, they'll call you into the back office afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, hey, or they might move your ratings down. Cenk Uygur, the owner of the Young Turks, famously worked at MSNBC, and they basically were like, hey, we're either going to fire you or you have to totally tone down your anti-establishment rhetoric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he's since started the biggest political news station on YouTube. I think they have over 6 million subscribers at this point.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, my dad's just one of those guys. But like
more than Compound Media,
more than InfoWars.
InfoWars is what I was trying to think of. I've been responding to Anthony Cumia's stuff on Twitter too much.
That'll do it. But I'm trying to explain to him, and he clearly just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Somebody put this perfectly. I forget who it was, but I saw a headline. They're like, the Democrats would rather have Trump as president than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's some truth to that.
Oh, yeah.
There's some truth to that. Because in some ways, the Democrats and certainly the Republicans, I mean, Trump is his own entity. He basically hijacked the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Even though he still does a lot of like traditional George Bush style, policies and stuff.
Or he did in his last presidency. But he also is changing a lot this time, because it seems like.
And he has less guardrails.
Yeah, and last time it seemed like he just took advice from a lot of the people surrounding him on who to hire.
Yes.
But now he's like, oh, that was still politics, and I'm just going to flush everything.
Yeah, and eventually fired a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Including his own vice president.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't fire the vice president, but he basically was like, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
But where am I even going with this? Yeah, if Bernie Sanders, if the Bernie wing took over the Democratic Party,
yeah,
all of these traditional neoliberals, right, and their strategists, whether it be guys like James Carville, David Axelrod, obviously Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, these people would all lose their jobs overnight.
Yeah.
Okay, not necessarily Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, although they would wane in popularity.
Chuck Schumer would just feature for Amy Schumer.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer, he would just pretend to be her father. Do cameos. I'm Amy Schumer's father.
I think he is.
No way.
Or it's either her father or her uncle.
Really?
I'm positive.
Jamie, pop it up. My phone's plugged in.
My phone's recording this. I can look it up if you talk for a second. This is
either super fake news or a mind-blowing fact.
I'm surprised you hadn't heard
Schumer
this.
And Amy Schumer related.
I'm positive. How are Chuck Schumer and Amy Schumer related?
I mean, how many Schumers are there, really?
I mean,
probably a decent number of them in the tri-state area.
3, 4. This is not the easiest way to find this out.
Anyways, the point I'm making is the heads of the DNC, the Democratic Party establishment, they have in some ways more to lose from their own party being reconstructed, because a lot of those people, they're going to get fired, they're going to get primary and voted out. Their vision of what the Democratic Party is going to die. If Trump wins, they still get to be the anti-Trump party.
Yes.
They still get to do the exact same song and dance they're doing for another 4 years.
Yeah.
And run another, what's it going to be, Gavin Newsom next time?
Yeah.
Or Josh Shapiro. It's all the same shit. It's
Yeah,
all
Ben Shapiro.
Bill Clinton to now has all been one more or less same narrative.
Yeah.
That the Democratic Party's been running out there.
Yeah.
And it won for a while, but it's just stale to most people.
Yeah.
Most people at this point want something different, and we can offer them something much better, different on the left, but we didn't. We ran Kamala out there.
Yeah.
As basically, here's Joe Biden all over again. You either have what you had or you can have something different.
And it's also like, it's Joe Biden all over again, but it's also like she doesn't have, like, everything she ran for when she ran for president in 2016 is not reflected in what she ran for in 2024. She just changed all of her...
2020.
2020. She changed all of her policies in 2024 to whatever Joe Biden's policies were when she ran.
Yeah.
Instead of... So it's like, okay, she's just admitting that she is a faceless entity for the Democrats.
Clearly a disingenuous person.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's just a puppet. She's
Anyways, my dad, rather than, he just... Every time I mispronounced her name...
Yeah.
He would just be like, the debate would get mired in that. And I'm like, this is why you guys lost.
Yes.
Because nobody gives a fuck.
How you pronounce a name.
Yeah, at the end of the day. I mean, do I agree that you should try to pronounce her name correctly?
Sure.
Yes. It's also a weird fucking name.
Yeah.
You're gonna screw it up in casual conversation.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm mispronouncing the name Susan.
And it's also like, if you're having a political debate and you mispronounce her name, that shouldn't be the thing that you get hung up on.
Like, maybe don't cut me off.
Yeah.
Let me finish my art rather than, it's Kamala!
Yeah.
Kamala! Like, you sound just like the fucking retarded Republicans when you say that.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, the retarded Republicans who you lost to.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, you're a loser. You need to figure out how to win elections.
Well, it's like when Hillary lost and, like, Bill Clinton, she was, like, kind of trying to get Bill to say something about, like, isn't it crazy that I lost? And he kind of had this attitude of just, like, you lost. Just live with it.
If you lost, it's not crazy.
No, it's also not their fault you lost. It's your fault. You didn't pose a significant
what they always try
better
to do is they
opportunity
try to
than the other
blame their
people.
base. And this is what my dad did. My dad was like, because I went through all the things the Democrats could have done differently.
Yeah.
Like Biden should have stepped down sooner so that we could have had a full open primary process.
Yes.
Democrats shouldn't have been so disingenuous about his mental condition until he had that disastrous debate performance.
As if they hadn't all been pretty disastrous.
Right, well, but the last one was particularly bad.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I mean, we knew from...
When he fell off the bike. When he fell up the stairs.
From the in the last election, Trump versus Biden, this was a huge issue.
Yes.
Biden's competency, and he's only getting older.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should have had a full primary process. Kamala Harris shouldn't have been undemocratically presented to us as our candidate.
Yeah.
She should have gone on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
She should have hit the podcast circuit.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
But that's because she's not running based on her opinions and beliefs. She has to stick to whatever is given to her by the Democratic Party. She can't just have a 3-hour long form conversation that would lead to being like, well, why do you feel this way about these things? She would just run out.
She could if the Democratic Party knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
or
trying
if
to
they
say?
let her change the base opinion. The opinion of their base.
But you can keep the base opinion. Like, her base opinions were more or less correct, or at least a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump's.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, they were different than the things that she ran on in 2020. It's like, if you had let her just change the things she's running on to fit who she is more, people might have been more for it.
I don't think it changed that much, though.
From what I've heard, it sounds like it did.
All of the Democratic candidates are more or less cookie cutter, supporting the same things.
Yeah.
With minor differences here and there.
Yeah, some are less machine-oriented.
Yeah, well, some are more progressive.
Yeah.
And Kamala's not one of them. Kamala has been forced to become more progressive.
Yeah.
But, if she wanted to go on Rogan and Rogan wanted to call out that hypocrisy, but I don't think Rogan would have them. I don't think that would have been the top priority. The top priority would have been just going back and forth between her current ideology and Trump's current ideology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the Democrats didn't want to really get in the mud with it. They've just played the distance game.
Yeah.
They've just been like, listen, this guy's a crazy fascist liar, total corrupt, couldn't care less about poor people and immigrants, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. We don't have to spell it out for you. We don't have to give really precise details about how economic plan is better than his economic plan.
Yeah.
Or about how, we're just going to character assassinate him. And by the way, it's a very worthy character assassination.
And it's a two-sided thing. It's like they also character assassinate whoever's running on the left.
Right.
The right does that.
Exactly. So that's why when you character assassinate, a lot of times it's just in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to get people to like you and to believe in your vision.
Well, this is the thing,
It's not enough to just shit-talk the other guy.
Yeah.
Because he's going to shit-talk you just as equally. And to somebody who's not paying that close attention, it's just going to be, well, everyone on the left says this guy's a crazy fascist. Everyone on the right says that this woman is a corrupt, two-faced, deep state person.
Yeah.
Well, I like Trump more, and, whatever, so I'm going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to prove how likable and trustworthy and good your agenda is.
Yeah, which is the problem when it's like, when you're blaming your voter base for not coming out to support the candidate.
Again, political suicide.
Yeah, it's like, why do you think they didn't come out? Why do you think they've come out in spades in previous years and they didn't this time?
Yeah.
Maybe because people felt compelled to not vote to make a point about the fact that they don't feel comfortable choosing a side.
And I can totally see the Democratic Party just being like, well, we didn't think that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll make changes for next time.
It
and there have been
happens.
some voices saying that, but there have been a lot of other voices being like, well, look, I mean, we did the best we can. My dad was saying. My dad said one of the most ridiculous things I haven't heard anybody say this but him.
Yeah.
Because at one point I'm like, well, Kamala Harris, like her or hate her, she's just not a great politician.
Yeah.
Like, she got smoked in her own primary.
Yeah.
She's consistently polled low. People don't tend to like her that much as a person.
No.
They
it's
might
the Hillary problem.
like her. It's the Hillary problem all over again. To which he said, he's like, oh, I thought she was a great politician. Like, you thought she was a great politician.
Why did he vote for her in the primary?
Have you completely lost the plot here?
Yeah, really.
But also to not go, like, Trump going on
Rogan,
and again, I don't know. There is data backing that this did make a difference. I don't know the total specifics, but going on Rogan, going on Lex Friedman, going on Theo, these are not insignificant view counts.
No.
If you're going to go on any platform, these are some of the biggest platforms in the world.
Literally. I think his Rogan appearance had 100 million views or something like that.
Yeah. Lex Friedman's got, 4 or 5 million subscribers on YouTube.
Theo Vaughn's huge.
Imagine if Kamala had hit the same circuit.
Would have been good.
The reason why she didn't hit that circuit is because this is the false narrative they would tell you. They would tell you, probably, her campaign would probably say, well, these people aren't going to give us a fair shake.
Yeah.
They're going to try to ask us gotcha questions and make us look like asses. They don't like us. These are not our people.
Yeah.
The real thing is, Kamala's just so disingenuous and so unlikable.
Yeah.
If she's in a room for 3 hours with Joe Rogan, it's going to get really awkward.
Yeah.
She's going to run out of things to say.
Yeah.
She's not the type of personality who can charm people on a mass scale.
No, she's going to come across as a bitch.
Rogan, the same way Rogan played patty cakes with Donald Trump and didn't ask him any gotcha questions.
Yeah.
He does that with everybody. I think he would have been a little bit harder on the Democratic candidate for sure at this point because he leans right.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why he leans right is because, like we're saying, the left has become a bunch of elitist pricks.
Well, that's the thing.
And nobody wants to go on his show and in a friendly, affable, persuasive manner show him that we're still worth believing in.
Yeah.
That, hey, you voted for Bernie Sanders 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So what changed? How did you go from Bernie to Trump?
Well, that is the
Bernie and
funny
Trump
thing.
could not be any more diametrically opposed on the political. They're literal mere opposites of each other. For Joe to go from one to the other, it clearly speaks to, one, just the crowd of people that he's surrounded himself with.
Yeah.
It speaks to, one, how, swayable of a person he is, and somebody who, he doesn't have like hard and set values as much as he has an ever evolving view of the world based on who he's hanging out with, what might subconsciously benefit him, what might rub him the wrong way.
Well, I think so much of it is also like the fact that the left just keeps ostracizing these people.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the big Elon Musk thing, was like he wasn't against the left seemingly until like he was deliberately ostracized by the liberal government. In terms of like, he's got the #1 energy efficient vehicle production company.
Yes.
And they had like this big energy efficient vehicle clean power shit. This big assembly with the U.S. government of all these energy companies, or these energy vehicle companies. They deliberately didn't invite Tesla.
Yes.
Even though they're the leading contributors to this.
Yes, I remember this story.
It's like, that alone is like, what are you doing? This guy's clearly trying to do a good thing. Even if he's doing it to make money off it, he's doing a good thing.
It even goes back to Obama roasting Donald Trump at the presidential, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Basically being like, this guy's never going to become president.
Yeah.
Is this attitude of, like, again, it's like gloating almost.
Yeah, it's just like moral superiority.
We have America on our side.
Yeah.
And so we can just walk all over you people now.
Yeah.
And Trump is just a giant middle finger to that mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, to your point, even Elon is somebody who I don't know if he would have ever identified as being on the, I forget whether or not he supported Obama. I wouldn't have been shocked if he did support Obama.
Nor would I.
Especially term 1.
Yeah.
But the left has gone after Elon infinitely harder than the right ever has.
Oh yeah, and Rogan in the same light.
And Rogan. I mean, they've called Rogan, some fucking retarded meathead who just eats elk and drinks elk cum all day.
Yeah, that's not how you get somebody to support your team.
You ever hear the phrase, you catch more bees with honey?
Yeah, really.
Right? Like, whatever, somehow we lost basic political common sense.
Yeah. Well, it's this whole attitude of, what's the word?
And just to clarify, I'm not
a
Joe Rogan fan.
Fair, yeah.
I was didn't think he should have endorsed Trump. Or I should say I was a Joe Rogan fan. I'm now, I've never met the fucking guy, but from what I know of him, I was disappointed that he endorsed Donald Trump.
Yeah.
If he had voted for Donald Trump, par for the course, couldn't give less of a shit.
I just think it's crazy that comedians will endorse. Like, comedians should be apolitical. Unless you are a political comedian and that's your thing, you should try to, like, if you're really trying to be a great comedian, be relatively unsided.
And that's been Rogan's whole shtick.
Yes.
That's his for ever since 2016.
Yeah.
He's been saying, I'm not going to endorse anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not even, he said multiple times, I don't even want to have Trump on my show.
Did he endorse
because
Bernie?
I don't want the responsibility
Yeah.
of potentially supporting a guy who I'm not qualified to support. Well, I'm not a fucking political... Why would I want to put my hand on the political scales and tip it one way or another?
Yeah.
How many times has Joe Rogan said, "Why are you listening to me? I'm just a dumbass comedian who likes talking about UFC and hanging out with my friends."
That always blows me away when people are like, "Yeah, but if you get to a certain following, suddenly you have more importance than just a comedian."
But again, and Rogan he's always, every step along the way, he's pushed back on that.
Yes.
When people tried to cancel him over COVID,
Yeah.
he said, listen, guys, don't take me seriously. I'm not trying to advocate for public policy.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure this out in real time like you are. I have one guest on who's pro-vaccine. I have one guest on who's anti-vaccine.
Yeah.
And I'm just... He's always been this masquerading as neutral until you endorse the Republican nominee the day before an election.
I don't even know...
What could be less neutral than that?
But I don't know if he was masquerading as neutral. I think he has changed over time. I think at that point, he probably... Like, during COVID, he probably was relatively neutral. And now...
You mean politically?
Politically and socially.
I'm saying... I agree that he has probably taken a harder stance, but I think it's more that he's been peer pressured, to be completely honest with you.
Well, that's my point. He's changed over the last 4 years.
He's changed, but even if you change personally, he's... I don't know if he realizes the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Right? That you can change personally all you want, but to go from the stance of, I don't want to be a political figure.
Yeah.
I don't want to be somebody who people sees as aligned. I'm on this team. I'm on that team.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Now, all of a sudden, he is having J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump on in the weeks leading up to the election. He's talking about doing his podcast out of Mar-a-Lago in the near future, doing the next Protect Up. I mean, what could be more...
Well, that's almost like the other part of the Kamala joke I did tonight, which is like correcting someone on such bullshit is like, okay, this is ridiculous. You know what? Fuck it. Now I support Trump. Just because you're annoying me, and not being like intelligent in how you're arguing this, I'm just gonna rebel and go for the other guy.
There's a lot of rebellion.
And be like, good for you.
Yeah.
See what? Congratulations. Now,
I know that's
you've made me hate you.
For you, it was a joke. Yeah. It wasn't actually.
But I do think people feel that way.
Who do feel that way.
Yeah. Maybe not everybody could be as smart as me, but I do appreciate the. By the way, Chuck Schumer is Amy Schumer's second cousin once removed.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah. Second cousin,
but they are related.
Parent of a second cousin.
Fair enough.
But yes, they are related.
That's where she gets her scintillating sense of humor from.
And her cock.
I don't
know if you guys knew about that.
Yeah.
That was private information.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it is no irony that, or I should say, no coincidence that Elon, to my knowledge, was the last guest on Rogan before Rogan publicly endorsed.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Because, I mean, I think it literally was that night.
Yeah.
Maybe the night they recorded or the night after they recorded. Because it was the last podcast released. And Elon is somebody who obviously Rogan views as
super
this Messiah-like figure.
Yeah.
You know, who's
He's not a Messiah-like figure, but he is incredibly intelligent. And I think people really sell him short for that.
He's incredibly intelligent, but he's incredibly intelligent in really specific ways.
Yes. He's not socially... He's socially inept. And you could see that when he, like, talks to Trump.
He can be socially inept. He can have a weird little autistic charm.
Yes.
But when it comes to matters of politics and policy, he has no education, no formal training.
No.
And debatable intelligence in that domain. I mean, I don't even think Elon himself would claim to be somebody who is, you know, has a encyclopedic knowledge of public policy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's somebody who just hopped on the Trump train because, I think, more out of hatred for the left even than genuine belief in what Trump's doing.
I think it's hatred for the left and the idea that if Trump is in presidency, there will be fewer regulations that put obstacles in the way of him doing what he wants to with his companies.
Yeah, and Elon also in that podcast made a plea for Rogan to endorse Trump.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It was sort of like, you need to endorse him, more or less. And then, I mean, I don't know if he actually said that. But to be completely transparent, I saw like a YouTube clip where it's like Elon tries to convince Rogan to endorse Trump.
I'm gonna keep listening. I gotta grab water though.
No worries. But then he did. And that's just where I thought that Rogan should have stuck to his principles of, hey, look, if at the end of the day you don't want this to be a podcast where people give you all of this responsibility and judge the fuck out of you based on opinions that you have, then don't publicly endorse somebody a day before the election.
Yeah, totally.
Because now they're going to judge you forever.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you have officially done the thing you said you wouldn't do.
Exactly. And also, to your point, for somebody who, like, has worshipped Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and not necessarily worshipped Bill Hicks, but he's...
Sure. A big fan.
Joe has looked up to these types of guys. I mean, is it hyperbole to say they're rolling over in their graves?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think they would think of Donald Trump? Or at the very least, like, publicly endorsing him? Like a comedian, I agree. It's not that I don't think a stand-up comic shouldn't be allowed to endorse. Like, I think that if you're a stand-up comedian, you really stand for a political candidate, and you think that that political candidate is gonna be best for the country, you sure endorse.
Yeah.
But at the very least, do so in a way that is
still critical of that person.
Still critical, and or at the very least, like open-handed.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you should never come off like a fanboy.
Yeah.
You know, it should never come off as this thing like, I'm doing this, you know, impulsively, like and you know, again, this is an ideology that this is not. I don't think of myself this way when I do stand up. I mean, I'm just a person with my thoughts, but it's become blasé for stand up comics to be like, we're modern day philosophers.
Yeah.
Right? We're the outsiders. We're the people who are supposed to look at everything going on in the public sphere objectively with a hypercritical lens.
Yeah.
And reveal the deeper truths and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, nothing about having Donald Trump, also just the Trump interview itself. I mean, you could not have gotten a less, like, confrontational, analytic interview than the one that Rogan had with Trump. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't watch it.
If your goal is to really get down to the truth,
yeah,
you know what I mean, and to really hold people accountable and like, he should have been overly scrutinous of Trump. Yeah. If anybody should have.
But it seems like his whole thing is not getting that deep. It's like just like with anyone else he has on. He talks about the things he's interested in, and he just has a conversation. He just hangs out with the person, and that's how he shows inside that person.
Right. Well, that's another thing I heard him say on a podcast recently. Again, just one of the most laughably naive things, and also hypocritical because But he basically said, in regard to the Trump interview, he's like, you know, you don't really get to know somebody. It's like, if you want to really get to know somebody, sit down and talk to them for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's who you really find out who someone is. Yeah. It's like, really?
Yeah.
You can't con someone for 3 hours? That's like a salesman's dream is to sit down with you for 3 hours. It's easier to sell somebody when you have them for 3 hours than when you have them for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You get to weave an entire narrative. How many people have bullshitted Joe Rogan on his podcast over the years? 100? There have been countless people who've he's come out after the fact and been like, oh, well, I don't support this, or oh, this guy lied to me, or oh, people are constantly like saying shit, especially on a public platform like that.
Yeah.
Like I could see behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But also the idea that you can get to know someone in you can't get to know someone in 3 months.
Yeah, the argument there would be like you can't focus for 3 hours is basically the argument. Where it's like you can't hold up for 3 hours whatever con you're doing.
Which is preposterous.
Yeah, you just take an Adderall.
Yeah.
You got at least 6 hours of good conning.
Rogan's point was basically, you know what? I was a Trump skeptic just like you guys were.
Yeah.
And he literally said, I just didn't have the time to look into it. Which, first of all, is the biggest bullshit in the world. If you have the time to look up every single intricacy of how magic mushrooms and spinning wheel kicks work,
Yeah.
you have the time to do a very brief deep dive on Trump's first 4 years in office.
Yes,
You know
it's
what
a
I mean?
matter of where your priorities lie.
Yeah, where your priorities lie. And I would say
For him, it's ice baths.
my biggest critique of Joe is it seems to me you can't have it both ways, right? Like I think
But you can have it your way at McDonald's.
this is sponsored by McDonald's.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's not sponsored by McDonald's.
Let's have it your
I don't know if
way.
it's legal to say that you have a sponsor you don't have.
I
Burger
don't think
King.
so. This is sponsored by...
You can't... Here's the thing. If you're going to... Because I'm always bashing Bill Maher for doing this.
Yeah.
Because Bill Maher is somebody much more so than Joe Rogan historically.
Yeah.
Bill Maher has presented himself as
Gay.
a serious political figure.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody who, even though he's also a stand-up comedian and he tells a lot of jokes...
And he's gay.
He does a shitload of research and... Well, not a shitload of research, but like he does a fair amount of research.
Yeah.
And has experts on... And
Has gay sex.
He has a lot of gay sex. He may or may not be gay.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a serious show,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and you're profiting hundreds of millions of dollars off of it,
Yeah.
and you have hundreds of millions of views,
Yeah.
I think you have an ethical responsibility to do the best you possibly can to present the truth.
If you're going to do what?
If you're going to have a really serious show.
Sure,
And if you're going to
sure.
make public endorsements.
Yeah, a serious
If
show
you
of that size.
aren't going to do public endorsements.
Yeah.
If you're not going to try to sway the country in a political direction.
Yes.
Then do whatever the fuck you want.
That's where I always felt. That's what I
Yes.
always felt about it. Where it was like, even during COVID, all the, whatever people are calling him an anti-vaxxer, it's like, it doesn't seem as if he was, like, a proponent of the anti-vax.
No.
He was just interested in other alternatives and interested in the science behind the safety of it.
Yes. Well, he's never been an anti-vaxxer.
No.
He's raised certain questions, some of which are horseshit.
I do think
granted.
he's actually gotten the vaccine, too.
He either did get the vaccine, or he was I think he at one point he said he was going to get the
But he had
vaccine,
gotten
and then it
COVID,
got canceled, or
he
something
had gotten
like
COVID
that.
recently, so he had the antibodies.
He had the
so
antibodies
he was like,
anyways.
Wow.
But yeah, during the COVID thing, I mean, he raised a lot of concerns about how the media and government were handling the thing, and spinning a certain narrative,
And the lack of the ability to speak freely on public platforms like Twitter.
right?
And have a discourse, which is like an exaggeration of the previous state of, like, since 2016, colleges haven't been a place of public discourse. They've been a place of proponents. They've been proponents of one side.
Right. And yeah, but he didn't come out and was like fuck Fauci, or like he didn't take a hard stance.
No.
He was more viewing a bunch of different opinions and, you know, just conducting the best interviews he can and trying to give factual information, or what he thinks is factual information.
Yeah, or at least try to get to the bottom of things.
Yeah, he wasn't spinning a really specific narrative.
No. And also he was like, this is what worked for me after, like, he had done some research, then he got COVID, then he took the fucking whatever.
Yeah.
And ivermectin, and then he was like, yeah, well, it worked for me, so... He's not saying that you should do it. He's just like, this was worth looking into.
But this time around, like, he didn't have any I think the most liberal guy he had on his podcast leading up to the election was John Fetterman, which is a joke.
Yeah.
And John Fetterman is and it's total establishment Democrat at this point.
Yeah.
He's not. Okay, and I didn't watch that interview, but just knowing who John Fetterman is, could not possibly imagine John Fetterman giving some type of impassioned speech about why Joe shouldn't vote for Trump.
Sure.
If Joe was on the fence at all about endorsing Trump, which I think he probably was.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have endorsed him last minute.
Yeah.
If he was going back and forth in his head, going back and forth in private circles about whether or not he should endorse Trump, he should have brought that internal conflict to the podcast.
Yeah.
Which he has done many times before.
With all sorts of things.
Have somebody like Sam Harris on the podcast again. Sam Harris, whom he used to worship at the throne of.
Yeah.
He had Sam Harris on his podcast 4 or 5 times. He once referred to Sam Harris as an intellectual black belt, which is the most Joe Rogan thing to say ever.
Yeah, really.
Okay? Like to describe a public intellectual, right? But Sam Harris is as big of an anti-Trumper as you're going to find, and has since called basically Joe, Elon, and the whole crowd just a bunch of absolute morons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Have him on.
Yeah.
Have Kyle Kalinske on. Kyle Kalinske is a progressive YouTuber who he's had multiple times, right? Have Bernie on again.
Yeah.
Bernie went on Theo Vaughn's podcast and Lex Friedman's podcast not that long ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have done Rogan too if Rogan wanted to have him on.
Yeah.
This time around, he did the opposite of what he's done historically. He only had on people who he already agreed with.
Yeah.
He, all in a row, Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance.
It did
Donald
seem
Trump.
that way, yeah.
And
I didn't notice it was literally in a row, but yeah.
That, to me, is not the behavior of somebody who
is on the fence.
Is... Well, to me, it's not the behavior of somebody whose biggest preoccupation is being accurate, is being on the right side of history.
Yes.
If Joe Rogan was consumed with a sense of principle about doing the right thing, he would have done the deepest dive on Trump's record he possibly could have.
Yeah.
He would have had multiple voices on, and he would have had to ask himself, okay, I'm going to be remembered forever over whether or not I publicly endorse Trump.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. He's in my opinion, and this is why I think it's hypocritical, he's trying to meld two things which are not possible. He's trying to say, well, look, I don't have to do deep dives on anybody if I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun. This is just a podcast.
Yeah.
I like Trump. Therefore, if he just voted for Trump, if he'd come on the day after the election and was like, look, I voted for Trump, you know, I personally would have thought that was stupid because I'm not a Trump supporter, but I wouldn't have lost respect for the platform.
Yeah.
But to come out and publicly endorse him the day before, it's like, okay, well, you just lost the plot of your show.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a show where you have not taken on the burden.
No, it's open-minded
of doing
discourse.
the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have now placed your hand on the political scale in such a massively impactful way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's tough to...
You might as well be on his campaign at this point.
Well, it's interesting because it's almost like the idea that he doesn't want to be a guy who people see as a voice of legitimate intelligence.
Yes.
He doesn't want to be seen as a public figure in that way.
A public intellectual or a political figure.
Yes. He wants to be seen as a comedian.
Over and over again he's said this.
Yes.
Over and over again. When CNN and MSNBC bashed him, he's like, look, dude, I'm just a comedian.
But that brings up the tough point of if a comedian endorses someone, does that make them a political figure, or is it still just a comedian saying, I like this guy and I think you should consider him too?
No, I don't think it automatically makes them a political figure, and I wouldn't say that Joe Rogan is de facto a political figure at this point. He's more a political figure because he's just so goddamn popular.
Yes, yeah. And because people treat him as such.
Yeah, I don't think he made himself a political figure. I just think he did a profoundly un-Lenny Bruce thing to do.
Maybe.
Which is, you're supposed to be speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be hypercritical.
Yes.
You're supposed to clown both sides.
Yeah.
And rather than do that, you have on the candidate for the Republican Party, you play patty cakes with him for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Don't grill him on anything, and then publicly endorse him.
Yeah.
With no humility. That's the other thing. Like if he were to have said anything on his podcast to try to speak to fans like me, people who've been watching him for, I don't know how long he's been.
I've been watching him since like 2013.
Yeah, probably 10 years or more.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who, in the past, I've watched a ton of his content, which is why he's making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I've looked up to him. I've defended him countless times, right? And for whether it's Sam Harris, whether it's Kyle Kalinske, whether it's anybody who's watched his podcast that identifies as being on the left, or that voted for Bernie Sanders, or voted for Joe Biden, or this time voted for Kamala.
Yeah, especially Bernie, the people like who supported the guy he used to support.
Who he used to support.
Yeah.
And to your answer,
Although
he never publicly endorsed him.
Yeah,
but
fair.
he
He
did
also
say, I'm voting for him.
Well, that's two interesting points. One, I wonder if Bernie, if he ran this time, regardless of his age, I wonder if he would have endorsed Bernie instead.
I don't think so.
I wonder.
I think that Joe's officially a Republican now.
I don't know if that would have happened.
Ideologically.
I don't know if it would have happened if Bernie was running. But I don't know.
Like I said, I don't know either. That's just my guess.
It's a good guess. But
there's been no attempt. I've heard nothing to the tune of Joe being like, "Hey, here's why I did this. Here's why," or "I'm sorry for not being more transparent about the fact that I wasn't politically neutral."
Yeah.
Right? Because people on the left for years have been, what he used to say, smearing him as a Republican.
Mm.
Joe used to say, over and over again, Joe Rogan was like, I'm not a fucking Republican. I supported Bernie Sanders in 2016. Why are you calling me a Republican? Because now you are.
Yeah.
Because now you endorse the Republican candidate.
Yeah.
So it was just a big lie.
Does endorsing somebody make you part of their party? But de facto.
Not forever, but it means that clearly right now you are heavily leaning conservative.
Or at least given the options, you're leaning conservative. Because it's the kind of thing that's like, if, like, just because he's endorsing Trump, it only means that he prefers Trump to Kamala. It doesn't mean that he prefers the right to the left.
Maybe not always and forever, but I think right now he definitely prefers.
Given the current
I don't think he would
sets
even
of
disagree
options.
with that.
No, but given the current sets of options, that's how he feels.
Yeah.
If it was like Trump versus Obama, and it wasn't like he didn't know about all the drone strikes.
Yeah.
Then I wonder if he would have been leaning left. Like,
It's
I wonder
possible.
really what his beliefs are.
But I just think it was a little disingenuous for him to not give any indication that he was going to actually take a stance.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, officially take a stance.
Although it would have been
Elon Musk's prodding.
People would have twisted it if he had said, I'm having a difficult inner quandary about whether or not I should endorse Trump. If he said, I'm thinking about voting for him. But I don't
that would
know
have been open and honest.
But I don't. But also, people would have twisted that into basically saying he's endorsing Trump. So it's almost moot. It's almost the same as if he just endorsed him. Because that would have been the public opinion, basically. The guys who are for Trump would say he endorsed him. The guys who are against Trump would say he endorsed him.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have come off as shockingly two-faced. You know what I'm saying? And also with no room for rebuttal. Like, the issue, anytime you do anything right before an election, it's universally frowned upon in the world of politics. It's always considered a dirty move.
Really?
That's why, when there's evidence, Democrats might over-exaggerate this, but there's certainly some beliefs that one of the reasons why Hillary lost to Trump is because I think it was like literally 2 days before the election, James Comey, who was the conservative head of the FBI, who's supposed to be politically neutral.
Yeah.
But we know that he's
like an
Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah. He reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails scandal thing, which was all a bunch of fucking horse shit. You know what I mean? Not that Hillary shouldn't have technically done this or technically done that, but it was. And the Democrats have done bullshit things on Trump too.
Yeah.
Like the Stormy Daniels thing. Who gives a fuck? Okay? Trump has committed some legitimate crimes that he would have probably been formally indicted for had he not won again. He won, and now he's going to pardon himself of anything.
Yeah.
So he can't be arrested. But he likely would have been arrested over the fake electors slate in Georgia. Because he literally tried to steal the 2020 election. I mean, it's a full-scale coup. There's no denying it. But
I think if there was no denying it, he would have actually, he would be in jail. I think
the charges were brought against him.
Yeah.
The legal process it just takes a while to set the court dates and they were trying to get it in before the election.
Yeah.
They were trying to arrest him before the election. And then his lawyers kept postponing the court. And that's just how the court of law works.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know whether I don't know whether it's a felony or I don't know if he would house arrest or jail, but he would have been found guilty of a crime. Most legal people believe.
For instituting a coup?
A coup was a dramatic word.
Yeah.
But
and the direct implication of institution.
But it is, for all intents and purposes, a coup. I mean, what does coup mean? Coup means you try to overthrow a democratically elected. Well, it doesn't have to be democratically elected. Let's just throw out the word coup.
Yeah, it would be a mishmash of a coup, is the idea. If you're going to call it a coup, just understand it's the most amalgamous version of a coup.
Yeah, and it's technically not a coup because there hasn't been a transition of power yet.
Yeah.
He lost the election, and he did everything in his power to fudge the results so that he didn't have to leave the White House, basically. Yeah. All the way up to trying to get the Vice President, Mike Pence, not to certify the election.
Yeah.
And, to which Mike Pence has been very public about how, he's gotten numerous death threats and, his life was put in jeopardy over the fact that he did certify the election results because he believed that Trump lost the election.
Yeah.
Okay, this is vice president, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
One of the most conservative guys in Congress, Mike Pence, is being like, country over party. Yeah, I'm super conservative, but you lost the election.
Yeah.
I can't say you didn't lose the election.
Yeah, you're not going to go down in history as that guy.
I forget how we even got on this topic.
Talking about Rogan.
Oh.
Talking about voting.
Oh yeah, I was saying so that's like one of Trump's most serious offenses. There have been many minor infractions the Democrats have tried to make a stink about.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans did that with Hillary too, with the emails thing, with other things. But James Comey, 2 days before the election, reopened the emails thing. The polling data showed that did, swing the pendulum a little more in Trump's favor, and she ended up losing. Who knows whether or not it was over that, but people were furious with him on both political spectrums for a guy who's supposed to be politically neutral to do something that close to the election. Because the thing is, if you do it well in advance of the election,
you can debate it.
There's enough time but when you do it at the last minute, whether it's true or not true, and in this case, that investigation ended up being closed.
Yeah.
There ended up being no legal charges brought against Hillary over the email stuff, because it was all nonsense, right? But he did that strategically to try to win Trump the election.
Yeah.
It was just a smear move.
Fair.
And, again, Rogan, he's been around enough to know that that's what that was. I think, again, I just think that Musk really pressured him.
Yeah.
He really made him feel like, listen, Trump is the guy.
Yeah.
The Democrats and the deep state are trying to destroy this country.
Yeah.
And you need to have the courage to do the right thing, what he thought was the right thing.
Yeah.
And endorse Trump last minute. But that's not stand-up comedy ethos.
Yeah.
Traditionally. Or at least what Rogan has espoused it to be.
Yes.
His skeptic antenna should have been like, there's like this is a guy who I wouldn't even have on the podcast for years. I was bashing Trump, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for his opinion to change that quickly, and then not even have any humility about it. Like,
well, now I don't know if
his
opinion changed that quickly. I think he's probably been in support of Trump for a while.
But that's what I mean. I think he should have been transparent about that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think he has been transparent about, like, thinking he's a better candidate.
I've never heard him say that.
I don't know if I've heard him say it either. I've heard him bash the left a lot, and more so than the right these days.
Yeah, I mean, the writing was on the wall.
Yes.
The writing was on the wall, but the reason why
said it.
People like me and a lot of other people and his fellow comics and stuff defended him, like, I feel duped. I feel like I've you know how many times in my head I've been like, well, he's not Republican. He would never endorse Trump.
Yeah.
Then he does. Because he, and again, it goes against his brand. His brand is all about, we're supposed to have somewhat of an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not one of those podcasters who's going to bullshit you, not tell you personal details about me, not tell you what's going on in my life, not tell you how I'm really feeling.
Yeah.
You're going to listen to me 9 hours a week sometimes or more.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to hear the full evolution of my beliefs.
Yeah. Which I think you kind of did.
In my opinion, he didn't have either for business reasons or for personal reasons. He did not want to deal with the pushback of actually endorsing a political candidate.
Probably.
He was like, okay, I'm just going to keep this train running. I'm obviously all but coming out and saying that I'm for the Republican Party currently and that I'm for Donald Trump. But I won't go that far, because the minute I go that far, people on the left are going to go crazy. A shitload of my viewers are going to stop listening to me.
Sure.
There's going to be a bunch of guests who will never come on my podcast again.
Sure.
But then he hypocritically changed his mind at the last moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I think at that point you're too deep in.
Yeah, but at that point also, it's like, what's the real difference between the writing being on the wall and actually endorsing it? Or even more so, what's the difference between saying he voted for him and saying he endorses it? It's essentially giving the same point. Like, the whole idea is he believes this.
Yes.
That's
he has every right in the world to say how he believes.
And whether or not he endorses him officially, it's saying the same thing. It's all saying this is what Joe Rogan thinks and believes.
Yes.
I don't think it would sway people more that he endorses him than if he was just openly talking about that he voted for him.
I think he should have just done it before the last day of the election.
Fair.
Because there was circulating clips on the internet of people being like, well, Joe endorsed him, so I'm voting for Trump. I'm not saying that stole the election, because that's just one fraction.
No, it is a good point, but it's also, like, it's tough because
there are people who worship him as a deity.
Yeah, but at some point it's like, is your goal as a entertainment person, no matter what you do, it's the same idea as, like, the idea that he shouldn't be listened to as a political pundit or a political figure because he has a big following.
Yeah.
Some people are going to, no matter what, but
yes,
you shouldn't play your cards based on that. And so I think anyone who would have been swayed to vote for him from endorsing him is the same level of intellect, low level of intellect, as the people who would vote for Trump based on the writing being on the wall that Joe Rogan would vote for him.
I don't think so. Not all. I mean, a lot of people, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who, they already, just by Joe Rogan being more open to conservative ideas.
Yes.
They then became more open to conservative ideas.
Yes.
But again, there's a huge portion of people. I mean, I know a lot of people who listen to Joe Rogan personally.
Yeah.
Who have never perceived him up until the moment that he endorsed Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They never perceived him as being a full-blown Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Right? They perceived him as being someone who is maybe sympathetic to some of those ideas, maybe somebody who isn't vehemently anti-Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But again, even that's a pretty recent development. Like I would say he was fairly anti-Donald Trump for years.
Probably.
For years, he...
in 2016, 2017.
He's joked about him. He's called him a liar. He's
Yeah.
pointed out his lies numerous times.
Yeah.
But now he's saying, no. He's not a liar. He's not a con man because I talked to him for 3 hours and he sounded pretty reasonable.
Is that his whole argument?
Literally, it's his whole argument.
Wow.
Yeah. There are clips of him saying that. Yeah. There are clips.
That's sad. That's all I can say.
There's this one video of him being like, listen. He's like, everyone's calling Donald Trump a con man. He's like, the guy sat in front of me for 3 hours.
Well, this gets to another point. Shouldn't we just feel bad for him? Because he's so dumb.
No, because he makes hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, but that doesn't make a difference in terms of the sadness of him being dumb. He's a dumb guy in a powerful position.
First of all, I don't even think he's dumb. I don't think he's dumb. I think that he is naive for sure.
Yeah.
And not. I think Joe Rogan's a smart guy. I think he's a talented guy.
I think he has decently good critical thinking skills, but I don't think he's the smartest guy.
No, he's not even the smartest of his comedy circle.
No, he's not even smarter than a fifth grader.
He's smarter than a fifth grader.
Let's put him to the test.
I don't. That game show was tough, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was actually one of the easier game shows.
Just because you're not smarter than
every
a fifth
once
grader.
in a while, I'd get tripped up by those questions too.
5 + 7.
But other people would be like, "I guess fifth graders are pretty smart. I didn't know that Africa was a country." And like.
It's a continent.
The other way around.
Yeah.
I fucked up the joke. I fucked up the joke.
You're like, wait.
But yeah.
It's not a country?
Yeah. I didn't know. I thought it was a country.
I thought it was a city in England.
It's not fucking Jeopardy, okay? It's Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader with Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, point taken.
For Joe Rogan.
But, no, I mean, the reason why you don't feel bad for him is because, okay, yeah, he's not the world's most credible public intellectual. He never espoused himself to be.
Yeah.
He's always projected an air of humility.
Yeah.
I think it's fake humility. I think he's more egotistical and narcissistic than he lets on.
I wouldn't doubt it.
You know what I mean? I mean, first of all, aren't most celebrities?
Yeah.
Like, you got to be a certain way to try to become the king of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But in a way, it's like, you kind of just, like, I don't know, I have empathy for bad people. Like, I have empathy for Hitler. Because it's like, he wouldn't have necessarily become Hitler if he had had a better life.
Well, that even just gets down to, do human beings have free will?
Well, this is kind of the point I'm getting
to.
Question. If you have a guy who has $1 billion, but he has no arms and legs, I still feel bad for him.
I'm going to leave on this awkward note because I've been holding this mushy banana.
You could throw that shit in the trash can right there.
While passionately talking about people I've never met before. And I'm going to wash.
Like your mom.
Yeah. Just keep it going, man.
I'll keep it going. I don't know anything I'd like to make a note of that disclaimer. I'm very uneducated, and I mean, I'm fairly educated, but I'm pretty ignorant about political stuff. So any opposition to any viewpoint or pro any viewpoint is mostly devil's advocate and comes from the minimal knowledge I've actually picked up from mostly listening to Dave Smith.
And our own podcast on repeat. I'm a genius. I know everything.
That's why I listen to you.
I do an exorbitant amount of research.
Yeah.
To try to get it right.
You do an absorbent amount of research.
I absorb Dave Smith like a sponge.
That's why they call you the Tampax of political comedy.
I've never seen any of Dave Smith's podcasts.
He's interesting. He's a radical libertarian, so there's a lot I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think he's pretty well educated about this stuff, and I think he has decent viewpoints on some things.
Yeah. Radical libertarian, I already know I'm going to disagree with him on a million
I don't even know.
things.
This is how uneducated about this stuff I am. I don't know what radical libertarian means. I don't know what libertarian means. I know in some ways, I've been told I have libertarian views, because I think all drugs should be legal, and I think it's probably good to make decisions with all your own stuff based on yourself.
That's like a fake libertarian value.
Yeah.
Like it's
I wish there was another word for that kind of thing.
Correlation, not causation.
Yeah,
but a lot of libertarians support that, but so do a lot of other people.
That makes sense.
I wish that's what makes you a libertarian.
It's weird that there are only like 3 political parts of the spectrum, it seems. From what I understand, it's like Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, which kind of leans Republican, or is like far off the chart.
There are many more subsects.
There are more, but nobody talks about them.
The most popular, the most publicized in America for the last like 20, 30 years.
I'm just gonna say I'm part of the Tea Party. Or what's the other one? I voted for the first time this year in person.
The Tea Party means you're radical right-winger.
Oh, I just thought it meant I hate England.
No.
Well, I do hate England, but because they fucking fucked up Jamaica. I love Jamaica, but
Yeah, they fucked up a lot of places. So did America, though.
Yeah, but the rest of them probably deserved it.
They made some places better.
Yeah.
Colonization always makes some things better and some things worse.
Not Australia. That's the only place I hate more than England. But I'm kidding. I love both of them. Kind of kidding.
Well, there's a theory.
What's the Working Families Party? Or something like that. I voted in person for the first time this year, and I so that there were more than 3 parties. I thought there were 3 parties.
Did you write in? I was trying to think of somebody silly.
Chewbacca?
I was going to write somebody that we knew, but that would have been... I don't want to name drop them.
No, there's a couple open micers that would be fun to drop.
Yeah, exactly.
We're thinking of the same one.
Yeah.
Dude, I was at a party last night and we were talking about if we put his face on the cake.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that would have been beautiful.
You guys wish you were in on this.
Anyways, to your point, though, how much do you judge bad people? Is it possible to be a bad person?
Yeah.
These are like broad philosophy questions. By the way, I'm not saying Joe Rogan's a bad person.
I just think
I'm not saying that he doesn't have a right to support Donald Trump. He can support whoever he wants. Just as... I wouldn't even call... I'm an aspiring comedian. He's an actual comedian.
Yeah.
But somebody who, has liked a lot of things Joe Rogan has said over the years and have been inspired by things he's talked about with regards to mental health and self-improvement and health and wellness and
health, wealth, success,
so many
and happiness.
Great interviews and people he's had on and great comedians and great public intellectuals and he's done good things, and I thought it was hypocritical, off-brand. I as a fan of him, I felt I felt duped.
Yeah.
In his last-minute endorsement of Donald Trump. Somebody who he said countless times, not only wouldn't endorse him, he wouldn't even have him on the podcast. He's like, I'm not having Trump on the podcast.
Interesting.
And then he has Trump on the podcast, has the most non-confrontational interview, him and Lex Fridman.
Yeah.
It was like, where's talking about him trying to steal the election? where's making him actually try to defend that?
Yeah.
They brought it up, but he was just like, made his quick bullshit excuse, and then they were just like, on to the next topic. And I'm like, where's the...
Well, this is kind of my point, is like, he's just a dumb guy. Like, it's almost like the same reason that I would say
don't endorse anybody.
Well, yeah, well, he's too dumb to know.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, is like, he's a dumb guy. Why should anybody listen to a dumb guy? And also, when he starts going against whatever, it's like, as you said before, he's so malleable.
I think he was convinced.
Yeah.
Very, very literally.
Yeah, if you let him...
J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, and Elon Musk.
And I'm pretty sure most of that's Elon Musk. Because
and
honestly...
Tucker Carlson. Could you get any more of a group of shifty, double talk... I mean, these people are professional salesmen.
But it also feels like, would he have even listened to any of them if it weren't for somebody he actually liked who listens to them? Elon Musk. Or maybe even other comics or whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like that's a lot of the reason
I think it's a bubble. And I also... I'm not just blaming them. I'm also really blaming the left.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really blaming some more leftist comics. Like Anthony Jeselnik has tried to come out in the wake... The great Anthony Jeselnik, if you're not aware, a stand-up comedian that nobody gives a fuck about anymore.
But a top-tier, touring the world stand-up comic.
He's a very successful stand-up comic, at the very least.
And he is very funny. He's undeniably very funny.
He's a really funny guy. I'm not the craziest about his stand-up.
I think his stand-up is sort of a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of comics.
He's got a fun joke here or there.
Yeah, and you can still make a great career out of that.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's the style you like.
And he has. But after the election, Anthony Jeselnik came out and torched Joe Rogan, people who listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He's basically, in my opinion, tried to just seize this moment to gain fanfare as like a comedic liberal voice. And it's like, where were you before the election?
Yeah, when it wasn't popular.
Yeah, if you had an issue with Joe Rogan espousing some of these ideas, maybe go on his podcast and try to talk him out. I can't think of one lefty who really confronted Joe Rogan on any of this stuff. Other than maybe Kyle Kalinske. I mean, I didn't watch the last Kyle Kalinske episode.
Nor did I.
I'm sure that Kyle debated Joe on many Republican talking points.
What's his show called again? Kyle's? Secular Talk.
I think it's just called,
Secular Talk.
Secular Talk, yeah.
But go ahead.
But Joe does what he always does, which he doesn't usually like to have arguments with anybody on air.
Yeah.
So if he has on a far left guy, he's going to play patty cakes with him. He's going to pretend like he's more left than he actually is.
Yeah, because he's just listening and talking.
He's just listening, talking, trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
Not taking sides.
No, he'll occasionally be like, so what do you think about the aliens?
Right.
Just brings into the stuff that he finds fun.
He's got a few things that he really passionately cares about, and then he'll push back on a lot.
And there have been interesting podcasts like that, like when he had that Graham Hancock on with that skeptic, the guy who like writes for a skeptic magazine, who was like fully against the idea that Göbekli Tepe was like the first monolithic civilization.
Yeah, I've never seen any of those episodes, just because they don't personally interest me that much.
They're incredible.
I could see myself getting into it.
Do some ketamine and watch Graham Hancock.
Yeah. Well, I don't know which one Graham Hancock is. I think he's more
nerdy looking white hair glasses
of an alternative historian rather than an outright conspiracy theorist.
Oh yes, yeah.
He has some outright conspiracy theorists.
I think yes, absolutely. I think Graham Hancock works in archaeology or is like adjacent.
Right. Yeah.
But he rarely gets into heated debates. It's mostly just sort of cordial conversation, friendly hangout.
Right. But that's where I think it is liberals' responsibility to bring the debate to him.
Yeah.
Which nobody wants to do because...
To oppose, yeah.
They're afraid they'll never be invited on his podcast again. They're afraid that his fans will hate them.
Yeah.
Or
that it'll be turned against them. Which is also like... This is the problem with the liberal attitude toward Joe Rogan entirely, is like they have ostracized him and made fun of him so much, where they should have just been like, Because now if they were to go on his podcast, it would be expected.
Yes.
That, like, they have a reason to think, oh, he's just going to turn this against us.
Yes.
If you hadn't done that, maybe he would have had a cordial conversation with you and expressed his sort of left-leaning
conversation.
Yeah, and discussed his left-leaning opinions and all that. Yeah, he would.
I'm sure he still would.
It sounded like he wanted Kamal on. He wasn't going to talk about the weed stuff.
To his credit, he did want to have Kamal on.
Yeah, and so he even said he would avoid talking about how she used to jail people for weed.
So it wasn't like he exclusively was like, I only want to talk to right-wingers. It's not like he's a right-wing propaganda network.
Yeah.
Although he could easily morph into that, right? But he also clearly didn't do everything he could to get... Because even Kamala... I mean, he should have had Kamala on if she were willing to go on. But
Kamala.
Even she wouldn't... I'll strangle you to death. Even she would not have pushed back. Like, Bernie would have been a better guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he invited Bernie. I don't know if Bernie wants to go on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even Bernie's less... I don't know why he hasn't had... He had Kyle on. I don't know why he hasn't ever had Cenk Uygur on again.
I don't know.
Because Cenk, that would be one... just like a very popular podcast.
Yeah.
Like, just from a viewership standpoint.
Sure.
And to Joe's credit, I don't think viewership has ever been his number one priority.
No.
I mean, if he really cared about viewership, he wouldn't be having on a kickboxer you've never heard of before.
Yeah, he wouldn't have on Louis J. Gomez.
Or a childhood stand-up comic friend or something like that. You know, Joe does whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I respect him for that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good guy in that way.
I don't know why he hasn't had Cenk on again. I'm not the biggest Cenk Uygur fan. I have disagreements with Cenk on things too. But Cenk would be the perfect person to have I would call it ultimately a constructive back and forth with Joe on policy. One, because Cenk has the biggest political news show on YouTube.
Yeah.
Two, Cenk is a very confrontational, no-nonsense... I mean, he's not going to be afraid or mute his beliefs at all to Joe Rogan. So he would really challenge Joe on why he was thinking of voting for Trump, why he's moved further to the right. He'd be like, you supported Bernie less than 8 years ago.
Yeah, what's up?
What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And here's why you should support Bernie again.
It was
and that would be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because he had Cenk on many years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, Cenk's talked a lot of shit about him.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he hasn't had him on.
Probably.
But what are you afraid of? You know what I mean? I mean, one, he's had on other people that have talked shit. Maybe not that aggressive.
Yeah, it seems like he just doesn't want to have like an awkward, tense, or heated 3-hour conversation. He does it... Seemingly he does it to have a good time, generally. Like, he wants to enjoy his work. Yeah. Which is, it's understandable.
It's understandable, but I do feel like, I don't know. I feel like once you get the platform that he did, and this is where some people are going to disagree, but I feel like once you have that big of a platform, you now have more of an ethical responsibility to get it right.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have to do that with people you don't like.
Yeah, with people you really dislike personally, sure.
Like, you can get a similar value by having somebody else on.
Yeah, to like somebody like Kyle.
Yes.
He's had on Kyle numerous times.
He likes him.
I got to rewatch the Kyle podcast.
Yeah, I wonder how it would
That would be fascinating to see. Because that was actually, I think that was like 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, really?
So it was relatively recent.
Wow.
It was definitely after Joe had gone through this conservative transformation.
Yeah.
And I'd be fascinating to see how hard Kyle pressed him or tried to sway him.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting now is that Kyle, in the wake of Joe endorsing Trump, has been absolutely brutal. Like scorched earth on Joe Rogan.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I doubt he'll be on again.
Yeah.
Because Kyle was basically like, hey man, you've had me on twice.
Yeah.
You used to support Bernie.
Yeah.
You're a fraud who can never be trusted again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's stay up till 5 and watch that episode.
Yeah, and then we'll comment on it afterwards.
You saw that Bernie spoke out after the election, where he was like dissing the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
As he rightfully should have.
I didn't watch all that much of it, but it seems like he was just saying they ostracized the working man.
Yeah, they basically put their elitist, woke agenda above putting the economic concerns of the average man super front and center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The liberals, and this is part of the issue is, so have you ever heard of James Carville?
No.
James Carville he goes on MSNBC and CNN all the time. He's a really weird looking dude.
Mm.
He's from Louisiana, so he's got like a Cajun accent.
Yeah.
He speaks like a Bayou guy.
Nice.
If you didn't know anything about him, you'd think he was a crackhead who has like crawfish boils every Sunday.
Yeah.
But he's actually one of the most important Democratic strategists of the 20th century.
As most New Orleans people are.
As much. Yeah. Every good democracy starts with a crawfish boil and some Zydeco music.
Yeah, Mark Normand.
Theo Vaughn.
Yeah, Sean Patton.
Great American. No, but he was one of Bill Clinton's chief. He might have been his
pundits.
chief political strategist.
Oh, wow.
And he referred to this strategy that he coined triangulation.
Like the cell phones.
Yeah, scissoring.
Yes,
It's basically it's the Kinsey scale. It's like I forget exactly how this works, but it's basically okay. Like, yeah, like Republicans are over here, Democrats are over here.
Yeah.
So to win elections, you need to be here.
You
need to we need to run a political candidate.
It's more of an A-frame emulation.
People forget. They think some people forget how recent Bernie type ideology was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like people think like, okay, Bernie's like this radical socialist who came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
First of all, FDR, who was way to the left of Bernie Sanders.
Wow, really?
Yes, in terms of the policies that he supported. Like in the early
atomic bomb.
In the early 20th century, 1920s to 1940s.
Yeah.
There were a lot of American leading political figures who were they were trying to get America to turn into a social democracy.
FDR
what Scandinavia became.
Yeah, FDR was actually so far left that he was against the Holocaust.
Yeah, can you believe it?
So far left.
Yeah.
Do you think if the Holocaust happened now, the left would be all about it?
Some members of, like, some real wackos.
They'd be like, we could sell a lot of weapons.
Yeah, we could really free Palestine.
Yeah.
No.
That's a good point, actually.
By and large, no.
I agree.
I think that's like a Bill Maher smear.
Well,
like, oh, if you
new rules.
If you're against the Netanyahu regime, guess what? You're a terrorist. You're ISIS. All right.
You're Hitler.
Go back to college.
New rules. Palestine is Hitler.
But no, I mean, the country as a whole was way further to the left. Dwight Eisenhower, who was the Republican president, argued for a much lower marginal tax rate than most Democrats have ever recently argued for, And basically, Nixon was super conservative. I don't have the full. I'm a pseudo political buff. I'm not a real political buff. I don't know why or exactly when it went so far right, but basically, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, the Republicans were consistently winning elections.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter was a disaster for the Democrats.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton came along and they were like, okay, how can the Democrats win the next election?
Yeah.
We need
Marilyn Monroe.
basically somebody who
Oh, that was fucking JFK.
acts, talks, walks like a Republican.
Yeah.
He's from Arkansas. He's pretty socially conservative.
Yeah.
Right? This is the guy who said, don't ask, don't tell in the military. He was against gay marriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these are some now would be considered comically conservative stances.
Sure.
And this was Bill Clinton in the 90s.
Yes.
Right?
Today.
And Bill Clinton was primaried by Jerry Brown.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown, who became the governor of California. Jerry Brown was way further left than most people realize. I mean, it was Jerry Brown, Bill Clinton was a lot like Bernie, Hillary Clinton. It was a lot like that. People forget that because Bill Clinton just crushed Jerry Brown.
Yeah.
And then crushed the Republicans and had the most successful Democratic presidency in recent memory.
Wow.
I mean, he was an incredibly popular president until the Monica Lewinsky scandal, where he, the Republicans tried to impeach him, and that's basically what permanently fucked up our political climate forever.
Yeah.
Was guys like Newt Gingrich and then Rupert Murdoch, they started Fox News, and it's a whole... But basically, that was the strategy, was let's run a guy who is to the left of the Republicans, but not... He's far enough right that he can get a conservative coalition.
Yeah.
And the Democrats have run that playbook out ever since. A lot of people don't realize how moderate Barack Obama was.
Yeah.
Because Barack Obama, he's black.
Yep.
And he's a lot more socially liberal than Bill Clinton was.
Yeah.
But economically, still pretty conservative.
Yeah, militarily.
Right? Then you get Hillary, and Hillary's just Bill 2.0 in 2016. And then Joe Biden is just Obama 2.0. And then Kamala's the same. So... We still haven't had a truly progressive candidate on the left.
Yeah.
In God knows how many years. Somebody who's...
Well, a truly progressive leftist president, not just candidate.
President.
Yeah, because we had Bernie as a candidate.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
A president. Yeah. So, or I should say somebody running for president. Because Bernie... lost the primary. He was running for president, but he wasn't the Democratic nominee.
Yes, yeah.
We haven't had somebody who their primary political promises are universal health care.
Yeah.
Which is how it is in almost every other modern first world Western nation.
Yeah.
Everybody has universal health care. It's ridiculous not to have universal health care.
Yeah.
As Bernie has said countless times, we pay more for drugs than any other country in the world.
Especially me.
With all the kratom these kids are taking, that is actually very cheap and not regulated by the pharmaceutical industries. Yeah, but like universal healthcare, raising the minimum wage, ridiculously popular. I think it polls at over 80% nationally. So a shitload of Republicans want the minimum wage raised.
Okay. And
Democrats. Social Security, wildly popular, but nobody wants to lose Social Security. Nobody wants to lose Medicare, Medicaid. Like these are the things.
Elon Musk.
Well, this is the problem. The problem is that, when you have two parties that both aren't pushing for an economically populist agenda, a lot of people get duped into voting for the party that is most anti-economically populist. Right? So a lot of people in this country are, 50% of Americans have a household income of $35,000. Well, not a household income. 50% of Americans individually make $35K a year or less.
Yeah.
Most people are relatively poor.
Yeah, it's basically the poverty
lower
line.
middle class. Yeah, and even the middle class ain't doing that well.
Yeah.
So most people's biggest concerns are money, money, money.
Yeah.
Which is another huge reason why Trump won, of course.
Yeah.
Because inflation went through the roof post-COVID. If you look at almost all the elections in the world. Now, again, this is kind of a bullshit excuse for Kamala.
Yeah.
Because, because she still should have won. Democrats should have done more. But it is true that almost every Democratic incumbent got crushed in this election.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do just vote based on their wallets in a really stupid way.
Yeah.
They go, okay, the last 4 years we just had was bad for the price of eggs, so I'm just going to vote for somebody else.
Yeah.
Not necessarily analyzing why these things happen.
No.
Like, of course inflation was going to be through the roof. We had the biggest pandemic since whatever the fucking next biggest pandemic. Was it polio?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that?
AIDS.
Something like that.
Gay people. We love the gays. Continue.
But, yeah, I mean, that's why, because you brought up Bernie bashing the left. That's basically why Bernie bashed the left. Because he was like, where was the messaging? Like, did you feel from Kamala or in the discourse that the Democratic Party's #1 priority was making you wealthier?
Not anything close.
Not anything close. No. Yeah. That is...
It was like trans rights.
Yeah. It's this...
And like teaching kids about gay people.
Yeah. There was the social issues and there was economic status quo. There was, we're just going to keep things the same.
And a lot of it was also continuing the war in Ukraine.
And also...
Which I am diametrically opposed to.
Calling Trump a fascist over and over again.
Yes.
And saying democracy's on the line.
Yeah, most of it was saying, do you want to have the stability that we currently have, which is not stability, or do you want this guy who's just going to throw a wrench in everything?
To permanently destroy our democracy.
Yes.
And people just didn't buy it.
No.
And... they should have bought it. Granted,
well,
I thought it was a catastrophic mistake to vote for Donald Trump.
Yes,
but that's what they get.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, and there are a lot of people who, by proxy, are all about Elon Musk.
Yeah. Who
don't realize that Elon Musk is their boss on steroids.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is the guy who wants there to be no unions at all. He's the guy who's talked about having no minimum wage at all.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's talked about not only not having universal health care, but kicking tens of millions of people off of their health care. These people are not... they have no agenda that they've presented that is going to... benefit the underprivileged in society.
Yeah.
That's not at the core of their ethos.
Yeah.
They'll tell some white lie, because of course they're not just going to come right out and say, hey, everybody who's poor or struggling, who's broke, we're going to make it worse.
Yeah.
No, they're saying by way of tariffs and deporting people and deregulating the government and all things that economists on both sides of the aisle almost unilaterally agree are going to have disastrous effects on the economy. That will somehow make America great again, and then you'll do better.
Yeah.
But they provide no logistical proof of that at all. It's all ideological.
Yeah, which doesn't
Vivek Ramaswamy, he's another guy, right? And they're all... it's a cult of personality, because none of these guys are... one, none of them are experts in the fields that they are engaging in.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is not an economist. He's not a political figure. He's not he's an engineer.
Yeah. He's also never been
poor. A rocket scientist.
And he's never lived a poor... like, he has blood diamond money.
Yeah. He's from wealth.
Yeah, he's from apartheid South Africa.
He's the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, okay, if you're a middle-class person, right?
You really think this guy's going to be on your side?
Has that ever been the case in the history of humanity?
Yeah.
Where the richest, most powerful people
if he was
in
on
the
your
world,
side, he would donate some of his massive wealth.
He'd be more philanthropic, maybe.
Yeah.
Does Elon Musk strike you as a philanthropist?
No.
Or Donald Trump,
he's
for
always,
that matter?
I might have said this on one of the previous podcasts, too. He always reminds me, or he always feels like he's for humanity, but against individuals. Because he just has this, like, it feels almost sociopathic.
Guess what? There's a lot of conservatism in that.
Yeah.
Some of this, guess where the term libertarian comes from? Liberal.
Yeah.
It's about the individual.
Yeah.
But individual freedom.
Yeah.
A lot of conservatives are hopelessly hypocritical on that matter. They don't realize the the paradoxical nature of the philosophies they're espousing.
Yeah.
Right? They want people to have, individual freedoms, but then not when it comes to abortion, not when it comes to whatever they don't want you to have the freedom.
Well, that's so funny because that's what people talk, like whenever I mention that I have some opinions that lean libertarian, that's what people always say. They're like, libertarians only care about like the things that they want to be like free.
Yes.
But it's like, yeah, but shouldn't ideologically libertarian would mean everything is free?
Yeah, exactly.
And up to individual choice.
It would be maximum amount of freedom.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily
It almost
agree
feels
with.
like conservative libertarianism isn't libertarianism.
It's not true libertarianism.
Yeah.
No, I mean true libertarianism. I think it goes back to John Locke. There's a whole. I mean, there's a lot of
the Prince
political
or something
ideologies that have become distorted.
Yeah.
All the way down to liberal. Like, what does it mean to be a liberal or a conservative? Anymore?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's all moot.
At this point, it's how you define it.
Right? There's two things. The Department of Government Efficiency really feels like the Ministry of Propaganda.
It's like Goebbels.
Yeah,
right.
But the second
really
I heard,
does.
At first, I was like, "Oh, cool! Elon Musk is going to be in government that might be able to help something."
Yeah,
could have some useful impact if he's doing like high level stuff that doesn't affect the individual at all.
Right.
But if he's deregulating government, it's like, okay, this Department of Government Efficiency is like, we're going to be the government for the government. And it's like, okay, so now you're the government. Just you guys, you two.
Well, efficiency is just a smokescreen for firing thousands of people.
Yes, the Department of Monitoring and choosing how you want to alter our current government.
It's the Department of Dismantling the government.
Yes.
That's
or
what
at least
and turning it over to corporate rule.
Well, dismantling it and mantling certain parts of it.
Certain individuals.
Yeah, well, the idea would be like,
so.
say you dismantle this part of the government, you say, okay, this is going to be dismantled in favor of the creation of this instead.
Right. Or just nothing at all.
Yeah,
like there are entire departments they're considering just basically getting rid of.
Yeah.
Or at the very least having a skeleton crew. Like the Department of Education.
Yeah.
That Trump's talked about literally getting rid of the Department of Education.
Wow.
Which is like we're going to go back to public schools with 100 kids per classroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean that's not like look. I hope they do a better job than I think they're going to do.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I don't think they're wrong about literally everything.
No, I think a lot of the government is a waste.
There is a lot of government bureaucracy.
And that's the whole idea behind like why a lot of people are like, good, I'll vote for Trump because he's going to drain the swamp. It's like, if he truly drains some of the swamp, that is good. Not all of it.
Some of the swamp,
And
sure.
he's probably not going to drain all the parts that people want drained. And he's probably going to drain parts people don't want drained.
And he's in the swamp.
Yeah, he is part of the swamp.
He's a major part of the swamp. Which is another problem.
The other interesting thought I had was, I always am interested by people who are like, oh, you shouldn't not vote. You should vote. You should, no matter what, you should vote.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, because the whole idea, their argument is always, if you, like, oh, why are you not voting? Well, to prove a point about the fact that I don't agree with either side. Well, what point is that going to prove? Who's that going to prove a point to? Which is a perfect example of the people you're trying to prove a point to. They never learn the point.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, our team didn't come out because our team sucks.
Yeah.
This is back to the blaming your own crowd. It's like, you should be you should be taking what is a statement as a statement instead of just as these guys are lazy.
Right. And also, if there isn't one candidate who you feel represents what you want, your viewpoint.
Yeah.
Or one party that you think is going to do better than the other party. And again, I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
I have voted for the Democrats every step along the way, even though I fucking hate the Democrats.
Same.
With a passion.
Yeah.
I've still voted for them.
Yeah.
Because I
two
dislike
evils.
the Republicans even more.
Yeah.
Literally lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
But some people, it doesn't rub them the right way.
Yeah.
They're not a lesser of two evils type of person. They like to... And And
well,
I
it's
agree
also
with you.
like
I don't try to shame those people.
No, and at a certain point, it's like, yes, they're the lesser of two evils, but they both might end the world, and I can't get down with either of that.
Yeah, and there's this you can't predict the future.
Yeah.
Right? So Democrats have tried to spin this narrative of, well, we just gotta hold on for power long enough.
Yeah.
Just until Trump dies and the MAGA thing blows over.
Yeah.
And, the country keeps moving further left.
Yeah.
And we keep increasing voter access and voter turnout. And then we can push your progressive ideals.
Yeah.
Then we'll move. And Trump just proved that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
He just proved that that's not going to happen. But a lot of people already thought it wasn't going to happen.
Yes.
A lot of people have thought for years that we just can't only have two political parties in this country.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
To have a party with two completely diametrically opposed political parties.
And no middle ground.
It's guaranteed for radicalization.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed to move us in the direction of civil war.
Yeah, division.
So for the people out there who are like, I don't want to vote because I want to get away from this cycle as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I respect that. I don't think it's strategically the right move.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely scared of a Trump presidency
Sure.
and what could happen. And I don't think it's worth the gamble.
I'm genuinely scared of a Kamala presidency too, though. I'm
scared.
Almost,
the state of the country right now is scary.
I'm almost more scared by the Kamala thing just because I think the number one threat to humanity right now is maintaining a war with Russia.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, and I kind of disagree a little bit.
And I'm less heated about it in the last week because I've been getting good social media attention and I'm feeling happy. But
yeah.
Dude, nothing like a viral Instagram reel to make you not care about nuclear war.
I have not watched that Lex Friedman podcast.
Oh yeah,
with the journalist you said.
Yeah,
but
she was on Rogan too.
It
although
sounds
it's
a little sensationalistic to me.
I
It
can
sounds
imagine.
like someone who's trying to sell a book.
Yes, and she is just a journalist. She's not an expert.
Right. And also, at the end of the day, I definitely don't think Trump or Kamala want anything to do with nuclear war.
No, well,
I think that they're...
I don't know about that.
Both
I honestly don't.
Well, that's just what I believe.
Yeah.
If any of them would be more open to nuclear war, I do think it would be Trump.
I think it would be the left just because the left seems more tied to weapons manufacturers who are lobbying for them.
I don't see how that could be. I mean, the vast majority of the military and the heads of the military lean conservative.
Yeah,
That's
but
been true
Trump
for
isn't
many,
a
many
typical
years.
conservative. And now all those heads of conservative military industrial complex stuff, they're all leaning left now. Like Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala.
Yeah, but I don't think he endorsed Kamala because he thought she would be
more
hawkish.
Yeah.
I think he endorsed Kamala because
he's disturbed by Trump.
The fact that Trump tried to steal the election.
Maybe.
I mean, Dick Cheney is a tried and true
American, conservative patriot.
Yeah, conservative patriot amendments guy.
Yeah.
Like, anybody who does anything flying in the face of democracy, he's going to be immediately turned off by.
That's a fair point.
Even though Dick Cheney is a neocon evil, he's got his own problems.
Yeah.
But I don't think he voted for Kamala because he was like, yeah, Kamala's really going to stick it to Russia.
Yeah.
I
do think that there's way too much money on the left from weapons manufacturers, though. And that will impact the state of war.
I just don't see why you think it's uniquely on the left. I'd be shocked.
No, I'm sure it's equally on the right, at least, if not more so on the right. But I don't think Trump is a typical right-winger in that way. And I think that I think for multiple reasons,
but he is surrounded by those types of people.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's going to put them into power.
Well, he did the last time. I mean,
he did last time.
John Bolton.
But he is
John Bolton, who's talked about war with China, preemptive war with China.
But he's spoken out about how he is. He was swayed to do that by the people around him in 2016.
What I think is that historically the Republicans have been more hawkish.
Yes.
And the Democrats have been more. I mean, believe me, they have not done everything that they should to encourage peace.
Yeah.
Even with the Obama administration,
Yeah.
there were many covert bombing campaigns and political coup attempts and all kinds of fuckery. And one of the problems is that the Pentagon is its own entity, so they can do a lot of things independently.
Yeah.
And there's a military-industrial complex.
Yeah. I just don't know if Trump is part of the machine in that way.
Well, what I agree. I don't know if he's part of the machine, but the concern with Trump is just that he's an unstable thinker in general.
Well, that's the thing. It could go either way.
It could go either way.
It's a total roll of the dice instead of an expectation.
With Kamala and the Democratic regime, I am confident that they are ultimately pussies when push comes to shove. And that, I mean, even Obama, the Republicans were calling for all-out war with Syria.
Well, that's the difference. Is I think the left is not overt in that way. I think they're more like, we're going to make it seem like we're doing the right thing, the progressive thing, the good thing for the people who are like the underdogs. But really behind the scenes, we are poking the bear to the point that we get them to aggress us in a significant way. And we could say, what did we do? We didn't do anything. And then we can attack them.
Okay, well, I see what you're saying, because Republicans are just as pro-Ukraine, anti-Russia as the Democrats.
Yes, but they're more overtly, like...
Trump specifically, and some people in Trump's circle, have adopted this new wave of, you could almost call it isolationism.
Yes.
Or at the very least, they're feigning that.
Yeah, where it's like America first.
America first, and that means...
letting anything else go to the wayside.
Tariffing goods from other countries, and also letting other things go to the wayside.
Yeah.
But...
like almost a fuck NATO attitude, even.
But then why are we sending billions of dollars to Israel still, if we're letting everything go to the wayside?
But that seems
why
like it's
is
almost...
Trump and everybody in Trump's circle uber pro-Israel? We're talking about wiping Palestine off the face of the fucking earth.
Yeah, he's got his own shit, you know. He's got his own direct
That's what
agenda.
I'm saying. Trump is going to do whatever Trump wants, whether it's stable or not, whether it risks nuclear war or not.
Absolutely.
I think Kamala and that crew is a little more strategic.
Yes.
Strategic to the point where I just don't buy, and this is kind of where we agree to disagree, I think it's all smoke and mirrors. Putin's threatened things 100 times.
Yeah.
We've threatened things 100 times. I think if there were any chance of Putin nuking the region, we'd have intel. I think we would concede the war before that happened. I honestly believe that. I don't think we want anything to do with nuclear war with Russia.
I agree. I don't think... I think even if they nuked Ukraine, it wouldn't lead to nuclear war.
No, I don't think so either.
But
I think that would be the end of it.
I agree. I think that's part, though. I mean, at least, like, it would make sense if that was part of why they made these intermediate range ballistic missiles, because those can't reach the U.S. So there would be no risk of shooting one off and having the U.S. respond with real nukes.
Right.
With all of our nukes.
Yes.
But it's the kind of thing that, like, I don't know if the left is so opposed to war, or to a nuke being dropped on Ukraine, that they would stop what is a very profitable war.
Yeah, that's true. But I would also say that's true of Trump as well. Trump hasn't given any direct indication that he's going to try to end the war in Ukraine. He's actually made suggestions that he's going to keep it going.
He said at first, before all this IRBM stuff, he had said that the first day of his presidency or something like that, he was going to sit down with Putin and make sure to end the war.
Right.
But also
what the fuck does that mean?
But since the latest stuff, he's gone back and said, like, we will maintain war with them if this continues.
Yeah,
so it's like
he's just Zelensky and stuff.
Yeah, he's a fucking dice roll. It's unknowable.
He's a dice roll, and I do agree that he clearly he's more sympathetic to Putin, I believe.
Yes.
And so to that end, with Russia specifically, there might be less of a threat, but Russia's not the only country with the potential for there to be World War III.
No, he was very sympathetic to North Korea too, though. Like he was the first sitting president.
He's
to go
very
to North Korea.
unsympathetic to Iran and everything in the Middle East.
Yes,
and some of those people also have nuclear capabilities.
I often wonder if that's because he's like a New Yorker through and through, and he's just like I'm with the Jews no matter what.
Listen, man. I mean, with Trump's lizard brain, it's
possible.
He's a blonde. He's a big fucking blonde. Like I think he sees Putin, and to some extent, he's like
brother,
white, judo, man, strong man, good,
white power,
white, right. This is like Vladimir Putin is like the master race.
Yeah,
this is what America should strive to be.
Yeah, make America white again.
Yeah, I don't think he's literally like that.
No, yeah.
But I do think that there's an element of he sees a little bit of Putin in himself.
Yeah.
He looks at...
He just wants to be the big dog.
The Middle East as just a bunch of fucking savages with oil that we need.
Yes, yeah.
You know, which is what most of the people on the right have done for years and years.
Yeah, and Israel kind of feels like part of the West in that way, or at least 100%. Part of the civilized world, I guess you would say.
Netanyahu and Dick Cheney are like this.
Yeah.
They're cut from the exact same cloth. You know
it's crazy, man.
Which is one of critique I've had on cause there are also a lot of people who didn't vote for Kamala just over Palestine. A lot of far left people, which is the most ridiculous.
Just because she wouldn't end the war.
Yeah, just because she wasn't more vocal about cutting off Netanyahu financially completely. Yeah. Right?
That's so crazy.
And it's like...
It's the most obvious choice at that point.
So you're going to let Trump win...
And genocide. Like, literally just end the country.
Who is guaranteed that there's not going to be an end of the war.
Well, there will be. By decimating all of Palestine.
Right, yeah.
Palestine
by
will
the
be
exact
gone.
Thing that you don't want.
Yes.
You know?
No, that is absurd. I try to go just by, like, this is what they said they would do. Whether they could change their mind or no. Trump especially will change his mind a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like... At least on the face of it right now, the way the cards lie now, or at least a week ago, it sounded like he was going to end Ukraine. And I was like, that sounds good. That should happen.
It could be good. It could be good.
But also, he just flip-flops too much. So it's like, it's nothing stable. But it's like, I don't
know if we should necessarily, and this is where it gets murky, and it's always tough trying to talk about war from a civilian standpoint, because war is such a logistical topic.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know, nobody knows exactly what the situation is in Ukraine and Russia. We're not talking to generals. We're not. Now, every once in a while they'll interview a general, and you can kind of get a decent sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be some things leaked, but still, there's no way to know exactly what's going on in back rooms and stuff.
No.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that I think we should immediately end the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's possible that we should. I think that we should probably continue the war in Ukraine up until the point where we think there is any decent chance of Putin blowing his stack. You know,
that's kind of
which
where
you could say is already is.
It kind of feels that way. Like, we are already attacking Russian territory,
and they're using North Korean troops, and it's getting
ugly. And he's providing more defenses to North Korea. And I almost think North Korea is more of a threat because they're more likely to just do some like Trump like wacky
total
thing.
Spastic.
Yes,
shit.
just a total roll of the dice.
Yes.
So it's like the fact that Putin's enforcing them should be enough of like, we got to lay off this.
Yeah, and also Ukraine isn't in NATO.
No.
They were thinking of becoming in NATO, but it's not like we have to defend them.
No, we do not, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a strategic choice that we've made.
I've actually been reading up on this a bit more since our last podcast, and I've heard some compelling arguments for the idea that having a buffer zone of Ukraine and some other countries like that, it's not really relevant anymore. Finland is part of NATO now. They're right next to Russia.
Yeah.
Like, we are close enough that it doesn't really matter. Like, the idea that they could not respond in time for us to nuke them and all that. So I wonder even if it's like, if the legitimacy of what I was arguing in the last podcast of like, it's because they want to join NATO that Russia's attacking. Like, it's all our fault. In a way, I'm more convinced nowadays that it's like, Russia used to be great.
Yes.
Now they're kind of a laughingstock.
Yeah,
They're falling
a
apart.
shell of
what the Soviet Union
empire.
was.
Yes.
And I think...
I mean, they've always been a little bit of a laughingstock.
Of course.
Russia's been the punching bag of history.
Yeah.
They've always been like a wannabe world
superpower.
leader. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were a nuclear superpower.
Yes.
They've always been a nuclear superpower.
Yeah, but they're not China.
Not even close.
They're not
no.
the United
Economically,
States.
they're not even in the ballpark.
They're not Jamaica.
They're not Laos.
Nope. They're not Laotian.
They're not Guinea.
No. They're not even New
They're
Guinea.
not even the slur Guinea.
They're not even Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Papua.
But you were saying.
I think it's more related to the fact that Putin wants to reconstruct some level of imperialist Russia. At least the idea that he wants to make Russia great again.
Basically, yeah.
I think that's why he sees eye to eye with Donald Trump.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. They see through that lens of military dictatorship.
Yeah.
And authoritarianism and nationalism and not trying to create a more globalist international community, but rather than trying to make your country as strong as possible, infinitely, so that you can always defend yourself, on the economic and military stage.
And I think they're also the reason, part of the, from what I've been reading, which is Reddit, and the reason I think that it seems like they're worried about Ukraine joining NATO is less the threat of nuclear superiority. It's the threat of Ukraine becoming a real first world nation with a booming economy that blows Russia out of the water. Yeah. And how embarrassing that would be for Russia.
Highly possible.
If Ukraine separated from what had previously been the Soviet Union and then became a world superpower, basically. Not superpower like we are, but like a legitimate Western civilization with a booming economy.
Also, Peter Zion, I think his name is.
Zion?
I don't know how you pronounce it. Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
No, but I know about Zion.
It's not spelled like Jah, our Lord Savior, Ethiopia, Zion.
Right road to Zion.
It's like Zehan.
Oh.
Like Zahan or something.
Yeah, Zion.
He's like a geopolitical expert guy. He's been on a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
And he also said he thinks that one of the reasons why Russia struck Ukraine like just recently is one, Putin's getting old for sure.
Yeah.
I have to get in cock-sucking mode again because even this chair
we gotta wrap this up soon.
is making my tailbone
Let me check the
with
phone.
pain.
We're good.
That basically. Jesus Christ.
I hope you don't still have a migraine.
I'm not one of your Chinese prostitutes, Nick. Take it easy. Here.
Sorry, I get them mistaken.
Yeah. We are the same height.
I go there, I'm like, Garrett?
Yeah. He talked about how Russia has like one of the most aging populations in the world. Like
Aging.
Aging. Yeah. Their number of young, able-bodied men compared to their old people. Like, basically, he thinks that Russia is on the verge of a full-scale economic and population collapse.
Yes, in which case he would be murdered by his contemporaries.
In which case, Putin inevitably at some point will be overthrown.
Yeah.
And so this is the last stand. Like, this is the last time he has where he has a large, able-bodied group of young men that are willing to go to war for him.
Yeah.
So if he's ever going to have a huge war,
now's the time.
Now's the time before these guys get older, and then there's going to be even less because Russia, they're just having a lot less children.
Yeah. And Ukraine could be very lucrative for their economy.
They're going to be economically crippled by the fact that these young kids, of which there are going to be less of, have to pay into Social Security to take care of millions of old people who can't work anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of countries in general have that problem. It's not just Russia. China's got that problem. We have that problem to some extent. It's an overpopulation problem.
Yeah.
But it's particularly bad in Russia. So there's theories that Putin's just like, you know what? We're going to fucking shit anyways.
Mm-hmm. Let's
go out with a bang. Let's go out with a nuclear bang.
Yeah.
Okay?
Bang energy drink.
You know what this is the last note we'll end on.
Yeah.
Because I want to ask you this too. When you were going deep into the nuclear rabbit hole with research, what do you think it was prompted more by fascination or fear?
Fear.
Why does it scare you so much?
I live in Manhattan.
Yeah, but okay, that's fair enough.
But do you
think that they would nuke just like if there was gonna be a nuclear war with Russia?
No, it would first be DC. But this is also why I stopped fearing it. It would first be DC.
I'm also relatively close to Manhattan.
It's true. The thing is, if they were to nuke anywhere on the U.S. soil, it would be 1,700 nukes.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not worth concerning oneself over. About once a year, I said this on the last one, about once a year, I have anxiety about nuclear warfare. Part of it's just living in Manhattan.
That's like...
To call it anxiety might be a little understatement.
That is like the most reasonable fear you could ever have, but makes you sound like the most paranoid schizophrenic person.
Yeah, right?
It's like, we should be afraid of that every day.
We should
You're
be.
like, once a year...
Yeah.
I get pretty freaked out about nuclear war.
It hits
it's like,
me.
Lock them up.
Yeah, once a year I stop
Where's
playing...
the duct tape?
I stop playing RuneScape, I stop taking Kratom, and I start remembering that nuclear warfare is on
This might be healthy.
It is.
It's a detox, yeah.
I think it is. That being said, I don't want to do it.
But what's weird, like, I am, correct me if I'm wrong, probably one of the most neurotic people you've ever met.
Yes.
I'm extremely anxious.
And erotic.
I'm not that erotic.
Yeah. It's all in the eye of the beholder.
My sex drive's going down these days. I'm almost 30.
All in the behind of the beholder.
But, nuclear war, I've never lost an ounce of anxiety energy over, because I don't know, it to me, I get what traps me in the anxiety spiral is the desire to control outcome. You know, it's this feeling of anxiety is like your body trying to spur you to action.
Yes.
You perceive a threat, and anxiety is trying to get you to address that threat.
Yes. There are ways to address it, though.
How?
Activism. Activism's number one.
Yeah.
Driving. Driving away.
But how much could you really do from an activism standpoint?
Well, that's the thing. No individual can do all that much.
Should we turn this into an anti-nuke themed podcast? Should that be our
that could be fun.
ethos?
That could be fun.
Yeah. We do stand for it.
Yeah. Just like have like a Fallout symbol.
Part of what makes me so skeptical of that idea is that it has been attempted before by people with much more power than us.
Well, I'm just thinking on the interpersonal level where it's like it's a populist thing. Like a lot of activism. It's like grassroots activism.
But it seems
so many people are
totally unrealistic.
But
because of other countries even more than our country.
Probably.
Yeah.
But also there are things we could do. We have 44 interceptor missiles for 1,700 Russian nukes.
So we can get a lot more of those.
We can make way more of those. Why do we have 44 and we have 1,700 nukes?
Turns out it costs $20 trillion to make one.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
I was with Sam Hyde on his podcast. He had some joke about the military-industrial complex. He's like, can't you see? That's not a $10 billion missile. That's a $100 billion missile. He's like, you need $100 billion missiles to kill the terrorists, you idiot. He's like, but yeah, there's that. But you know Ted Turner?
I don't know, Tina
You've probably
Turner.
heard the name.
Taking it back to the start of the pod.
This is very different Turner.
Oh, it's who was the husband?
Ted Turner,
Tina and who?
Ike?
Ike.
Yeah. Hurricane Ike.
You know, if he was in Israel, it'd be
Yeah.
something else.
No. But no, Ted Turner, multi-billionaire. I forget how he made his fortune. I think it might have been Comcast.
Israel.
He was one of the richest guys in the world for a while.
Oh, Ted Turner. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the NBC exec.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he then founded the Turner Broadcasting Network.
Yes.
TB.
Wasn't it TCM?
Turner.
Not Turner Classic Movies.
He owns that too.
That too.
Because it's Turner. Why am I fucking this up? CNN was his biggest thing.
Yeah.
He created CNN.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
But then he owns TNT, TBS, Cartoon Network,
Yeah.
TCM.
Ted
Pretty
Netanyahu
cool coalition
Turner.
of channels.
Yeah.
But he's just this like really rich dude.
Yeah.
He famously married a Jane Fonda for a while. They were like, but he made it his like personal philanthropy project to try to get rid of nukes.
Yeah.
I forget what he called it.
Nuclear de-escalation.
Deproliferation.
Deproliferation. Yeah.
So yeah, he went around and signed petitions
Yeah.
and tried to get government officials.
As did Bill Clinton, I think.
And it failed miserably.
Sure. Although we have deproliferated significantly.
Yeah, and we got Russia to do some of that.
Yes.
But also, who knows how much?
Well, we used to each have, I think, 60,000 nukes, and now we have 1,700.
Yeah.
It's significant.
That's good.
Yes.
We still have enough to kill the human race.
Yes.
But also, like, if we can't get rid of our nukes because they're not going to get rid of their nukes, I think it kind of just falls on those lines.
Yeah, but we
You know?
can do more to bolster our defenses against nukes.
Yeah, but it's going to cost a shitload of money, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Seems worth it.
It does. If there's any military spending that would be worth
Yeah.
it would be that.
Yeah.
It would be finding a way to ensure a nuclear holocaust doesn't happen.
Yes. The idea, at least,
We got to
that we're
build
just
the
like,
fallout vaults.
yeah, the only deterrent we have is that we're going to nuke them back.
Yeah.
Which is a deterrent, but it's not.
It's not good enough.
No, it's not the end-all, be-all.
No.
For one crazy guy who's cares more about his legacy than his life.
Right. But this is why, because I feel like I realistically can do nothing to stop it, and also if there was a nuclear war, I would die instantaneously. I wouldn't
Yes.
even have enough time. It's like, I can't even be troubled by it.
Well, that's why it only gets me once a year. But about once a year, I'm like, we should probably get...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm like, we should probably do something.
Yeah.
We're not doing much.
Right.
And it's mostly bothers me is that people don't think about that as a reality. They don't think
Yeah.
about the fact that we're in the Cold War.
It's absurd.
Yeah, they don't
Literally
think
absurd.
about mutually assured destruction. It's just like
We've deproliferated, but other countries have gotten more nukes.
Yes, but also I'm sure there's a lot behind closed doors that nobody admits to.
Wouldn't it be funny if some country you never thought of is the one that ends up nuking everything?
Jamaica?
Yeah, Jamaica! Let's go, dude.
Dude, that'd be so
Jamaica
good.
nukes Washington, D.C.
Hey, man, we're really going to turn Babylon to ashes.
Fuck, we meant to hit Russia. I'm sorry, man.
I'm so high. Oh, I hit America instead of Russia. My bad.
That's a good sketch.
Yeah. Russia's been a batty boy.
It'd be hard to even be. It would be almost too funny to be angry.
Yes.
I mean, it would be horrific.
Yeah, but there would be an SNL sketch the next weekend.
It would be really fun. Yeah. If Jamaica's the country that set off nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah.
We think it's Russia, so we just kill all of them. Yeah.
It's coming in, it's just blasting. Every little thing is going to burn up.
Oh, dude. Can you imagine, like, Fallout, but it's all Jamaican music and, like, Jamaican vibes instead?
That would be so funny.
That would be a fun game.
Fallout New Kingston.
Yes. Fallout Mount Zion. Hell yeah, dude.
We could make this.
Yeah, with AI.
They're
probably.
making AI that can make fully fledged video game worlds.
Dude, we got to get rich and famous before it's impossible to get rich and famous.
Yeah.
Because what value do you have to provide society once a robot can do everything?
You having the ideas? Dude, no robot's gonna think of New Kingston. Fallout New Kingston?
I don't know, man. It gets can I shout out a New York comedian that would be out of line, even if he has a comedy special on YouTube?
That'd be fine.
Alan Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Alan Fitzgerald has that joke about once they make a racist joke bot, he's like, I'm out of business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, but it is true.
And that's just grok.
Right. It is theoretical that artificial intelligence, relating to our last podcast, if you're interested, all about artificial intelligence. Although we don't know the order in which we're releasing these yet, but
we should release them in chronological order.
Yeah, definitely these two at least back to back. But yeah, if there's a sentience that can make art just as good as humans, then will people value human art anymore?
I think they will. I also think, like, people worry about if robots get way smarter than us, will they eliminate humans? I think they think of us almost as like a zoo animal, where they're like, this is like one of the last. They're like, this is the first. Well, I do think this is like compelling. They're like, this is the first biological.
These are redheaded twins. The redheaded twin
and
exhibit.
Twins.
Yeah,
but no, just the idea, like, this is the first biological evolutionary intelligence.
Yeah,
On a mass scale.
right.
That's very unique and worth maintaining if you're an intelligent species of robots or whatever.
Maybe temporarily.
At least.
But will they allow us to coexist with them, or like a zoo, will they just put us in cages? They could be some fun cages.
Could be big cages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could get down with a cage.
I don't mind a cage.
Yeah. Unless you're just locked up with a bunch of awful fucking people.
Yeah. Give me some kratom in a cage. That's all I need.
On that note, you guys, kratom in a cage. No more nuclear war.
That's what we're going to call this. Kratom in a cage.
Cue Peter Tosh. We don't want no nuclear war.
We don't
Great
want
song.
no nuclear war.
We don't want no nuclear war. With nuclear war, we all get lost.
Reggae myelitis.
All right, folks.